Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of What If Naruto Became the Fox Summoner of Konoha. If you enjoy the video then like, share and subscribe as it inspires me to make more such videos. So let's get started. Chapter 3. Oh, it's good to be back. Barely had Naruto said this when a blur of speed arrived next to him, embracing him and leaning on his shoulder. I'm so glad you're back, Naruto. Naruto frowned. Wait. Is that Sasuke? You don't know what it's been like. The Hokage assigned someone called Sai to our team. It's been pure hell. He insults everyone and doesn't show a shred of emotion. He took my place as the Stoke one. So, what has you been up to on that little training trip? Sakura asked, absently rolling a ball of water across the back of her palm. Apart from becoming about 8 inches taller and developing muscles. Well, for starters, I met your brother again, Sasuke. He said that the core groups for Akatsuki were pretty much finalized. Every ring they have is assigned to someone. The last member of the group is one Hidan, formerly of Hot Springs. This is supposed to be the guy who wiped the village out. He's a worshipper of some dark god called Vashin and can't properly die. Sakura winced. Ow. That name, the dark god one, felt nasty. Foreboding. More of that flashes of insight thing you were getting before I left. Oh yeah. Sakura snapped her fingers, and a shower of droplets flew through the air. It's developing really well. More of an actual sense now. I can sometimes get an idea of what a seal is meant to do before puzzling it out the long way. Tsunade suspects it's because my heritage helps me understand the celestial tongue and I can see the chakra fields of active techniques. Still got to refine that some more, but Sasuke's annoyed that I can tell which of his attacks are illusions now. Hinata's actually been a real help on that one. We've been sparring with her team a lot if we need more complex tactical situations. Which reminds me, my aspects shifted a year or so ago. I'm now elementally divided with earth, water, wind and fire, and medical chakra is a 5th. 2 are to go still seems to be the limit. Sakura then frowned. But I keep hearing snatches of music, or song or something. I suppose it would be pretty maddening that I can't quite hear it, but it's pleasant to listen to anyway. She perked up. But I did manage to stabilize the water and fire Raisingans and I'm working on earth, but if you has a good wind I'll grab that off you first. Neat. Anyway, I got down a good library of mid-level stuff in my 2 primary elements, but as you know the important bit for me is always going to be the big booms. Specifically, attacks powerful enough to beat an Akatsuki member, without giving up the kind of tactical flexibility a tail cloak doesn't often allow. Sasuke nodded slowly. They're fully aware what tailed beasts and their containers are like, so they'll be ready to fight enemies that are all power, strength, and maybe straight line speed. Not mobility and so on. Add to that the way they all has something that lets them take on an entire village and you approach the truth. Naruto sighed. You know one of them is so old, he actually fought the first. Well, besides Madara and this guy seems to has come out of it, without the massive and crippling damage Madara suffered. Sakura glanced again at the Akatsuki dossiers. Some of them clearly has weak spots, but they're going to be heavily guarded. Not much we can do to exploit the predominantly earth nature of Deidara's clay, if he blows us up from a kilometer distance after all. Naruto shrugged. We'll consider that later. Now, I was mentioning things I did. Most of the big ones are Rasengan based of course, like how I managed to work with changing the size of it so I can hold one as big as a fridge, or how I finally stabilized the wind Rasengan. It's throwable too. You just blit the wind chakra against your hand to separate it and it goes flying. But something interesting happened when I combined the 2. Watch. The Raisin Shuriken. It was beautiful. Sakura and Sasuke watched in awe as a shadow clone rammed it into the enormous stone target in the experimentation area. The impact broke the stability of the technique, and it detonated. The 2 were using their enhanced perception abilities to get a proper handle on what was happening and it was just astonishing. They saw the vortex of wind come apart into innumerable blades of pure chakra that simply put diced everything down to the size of dust. It was possibly the most perfect expression of wind chakra they had ever seen. Naruto rubbed the back of his head as it faded. Oh. Still not complete. At least one more thing to add to it, possibly 2. I want to be able to throw it like the wind Rasengan and see if I can put another chakra type in there while keeping it stable. Hey, if you manage to put fire into it too, Sasuke, what we might get then is just stupendous. Either that, or we blow up the village. Sasuke muttered. Oh, good point. Any reason you're not using that soaring short sword I got to you in sand, by the way? Naruto shrugged. I'm not one for swords really anyway, not to mention that. Well, I kinda blew it up. Sakura sighed. How? It converts chakra. So I channeled chakra into it. Lots and lots of chakra. Right, say no more. I did find these though. Naruto revealed a pair of tri-prong kunai from his pouch. Freya wasn't a help. The Thunder God seals on this are the most ludicrously complex I've ever seen. Where did you get them? Sasuke asked, interested. We went all over the place. Visited the site of Dad's great battles and found a couple left. I think one of them is from stone and the other is left over from a battle on the outskirts of the village proper. That one must be from his engagement with Madara. He never bothered to clean them up much. Sakura took a look and winced. You're not kidding on the complexity. I feel like a book tried to get into my head through my retina all at once. Give me one of them and a month, and I might get something useful out of it. Naruto nodded. No problem. Not as if they're exactly secret, he made thousands. So. Same team layout as normal. Naruto shrugged. Either of you made Jonin, by the way. Because that could be important. Otherwise, yeah, whoever has the best plan calls the shots. Sakura shook her head. We're still tuning, they want everyone that highly ranked to at least has hit 16. They hope it'll prevent us being as screwed up as Kakashi or Guy. Not much chance there. Naruto muttered. That said, Tenten is tipped for it at the next slate of promotions and Hinata has the skills. Shika might be considered, but it was enough effort to get him to accept the first promotion. I swear he only went to the finals, because they didn't has a prelim. Naruto grinned. Sounds like him. How's Hinata doing, again? Few confidence issues, but they're nothing to what she used to have. That promotion before you left really helped out and she's been experimenting with the Vental Fist loads. Remember the Kaiten? Naruto nodded. She made a version of it that cuts whatever is inside 2 bits. She's even working on projectile mode with that gentle step thing of hers, and get this. She got a hair animation technique off Tsunade last year, and she's actually worked out how to project a Vental Fist strike with her hair. Sasuke sighed. And I thought long hair was a sign of poor planning. Sakura sniggered. So did her dad. Said she wasn't quite skilled enough yet to allow the handicap of a long free hairstyle. Then she disabled his entire arm in a single strike with it. Oh, but I forgot, you don't know how everyone else is doing. Everyone in the Konoha 12 made Chunin. Kiba's angling for his elements to qualify for Jonin, Shinos. Well, Shino. Team 10 are pretty much average members of their clans with the skills of someone 5 years older. Lee's still obsessive about his training. I swear he's breaking the sound barrier sometimes and Nevi seems to has recovered from that whole trauma thing. Naruto nodded. Wait, you said Tenten and Hinata are skilled enough for Jonin. Any idea what their elements are? Sakura nodded. Both of them has water, though Tenten tends to use it in blade channeling to let her use even more ludicrously big weapons and Hinata has a chakra conduction medium for her more arcane stuff. Tenten also has fire and Hinata developed her wind enough to make her Kaiten variants even worse. How? Let's just say some of them aren't defenses anymore. I still has the memories of being inside her heavenly razor whirlwind. Naruto thought about it, and winced. Kaiten with pure wind nature chakra. Yep. I know that almost anything gets a shadow clone, but that move powderized a log. Team Kakashi, you'll need it along with Team Guy to render aid to Sand. Apparently some S-ranked missing nin attacked the village, kidnapped the KZ kid and poisoned one of their Jonin. Kankuro it says. Naruto swore. Damn, I'm not back in Konoha Day and Gaara gets himself kidnapped again. If this is going to be a regular thing with me in Konoha, maybe we should go on another training trip. Tobi sighed. I'm only telling you what the message said. You better get going, knowing Guy he'll make it a race. Sakura blinked, and shifted her aspects to medic/water. Sasuke, get me some water, boil it. Naruto, I might need a chakra transfusion later, this poison is nasty. For now, make sure you has all my equipment to hand. Tenten, do you has any blood pills in your equipment stock? It'll be easier to birth this stuff if I can just get rid of some of the blood with it. Nevi, let me know if his vitals change. The sand ninja watched with some awe as what had been a pair of ready combat ninja teams changed seamlessly into a makeshift hospital staff. Lee noticed their gaze, and gave a thumbs up. The training given to us by the most youthful Tsunade of the Sannin includes medical cross-education. I am a qualified trauma medic and always carry extra bandages. Temari adjusted her weaponry. Well. Thanks. Oh, Naruto. Didn't your teammate give you the other one of these swords? Naruto shrugged. Yeah. But I has several times your other brother's chakra on tap. I pretty much blew it up. I do that a lot. Sakura wiped her forehead. Right. He's out of danger. This poison's vicious stuff, but I've inverted the nature of it with a medical technique. We has enough for about a dozen antidote doses. You actually managed to turn the poison into its own antidote. Temari said, shocked. Yeah, it's a relatively simple concept. You analyze its effects and then, if it's a chakra-enhanced poison like this is, invert the chakra component. What you're left with is something that binds to the same receptors and serves to has the exact opposite effect. Too much of one or the other is of course still fatal, but match the doses and you're golden. Sasuke shook his head. And I'm supposed to be the one who finds complicated things simple. You seem a lot more social, Sasuke. Naruto commented absently as they disassembled the medical equipment. Blame Sai. I wanted to be different from him in as many ways as possible. Team 7 squinted at Itachi's feet. Naruto spoke up. Something I've always wondered. Why do you and the shark guy go around as part of the same team anyway? Itachi barely moved. Kisame and myself form something of a double act. It's a Bok and Tsukuyomi routine. Sakura stifled a laugh, then realized that she'd happened to catch the reflection of Itachi's eyes as he said that. Exactly. He added, as she fell into darkness. Sakura looked at her surrounds, an illusion world formed from one of Itachi's stupendous techniques. She tried to dispel to no avail, then her eyes widened as if in understanding. Taking heart somehow she stared back down at her captor. So, Sharingan illusions are the strongest, right? Yes. Itachi nodded gravely. This one has no counter and disrupting your chakra does not work as the illusion takes place entirely in your mind. You cannot disrupt your chakra network from inside the illusion. Sakura smiled. Then I has no worries. This technique has a disadvantage. It's that it can only target one person at a time. So. You don't know much about me, Itachi Uchiha. I am Sakura Hano, born to civilians of no import in the great interplay of the world. Yet I am of divine heritage, and I possess a form of true sight. I has the blood of gods on both sides. I am not one, but many. At that point, someone punched Itachi in the back. As he turned, the entrapment fell and released the girl from her illusory bonds. He was confronted with 4 near-identical copies of Sakura, each with different eyes. Aquamarine and sky blue, orange and deep brown. The 5th, with bright green eyes, cracked her knuckles. Aspects, Itachi. I has 5, and my soul is strong enough to support them in tandem. My mind is a fortress against invaders. Something came to her, and the next sentence was not spoken, but sung in a tongue that sounded like music, the meaning of the alien syllables, somehow inherent in their very nature. I am the legacy of the gods. And you do not belong here. The world dissolved. Naruto turned to Sakura as she staggered. What happened? He caught me in his illusions. I broke it with my bloodline. Watch out though. Naruto shrugged. I'm not as worried. Millie can break any illusion on me by scrambling her yukai. Point taken though, with that one it might be hours of subjective time before she noticed. Sasuke hissed through his teeth. I just caught it. That's some kind of clone technique. Sakura channeled her gold chakra, activating her true sight. There we go. Yeah, I wasn't looking deep enough. Some self-contained Jonin-level chakra supply there, instead of Itachi proper. Right. With a pop, Naruto, clearly a shadow clone, disappeared. Kakashi glanced behind Itachi and blanched. Everyone down. Itachi's copy barely had the time to turn in shock as a flurry of wind Rasengan flew in from every direction and shredded him. Sakura jogged over to the mess. Akatsuki robe, missing torso face, looks like a not Itachi person. Really, Naruto 12 elemental Rasengan. Naruto shrugged. I didn't know how good he was at dodging. His eyes then flickered. And one of my clones reported that Team Gaia fighting Kisum, or a lookalike of him at least. I suggest you get ready for a reverse summon. I need you to check which it is. Does it matter? Same Hada is a separate entity to Kisum, and if he can't block elemental attacks, I can pull the same Rasengan Blizzard trick on him. Sakurin nodded and vanished. 3 clones stood in a neat row, holding the water prison technique on the tune-in of Team Guy. Tenten was flailing around trying to reach a linen storage scroll that wouldn't fall apart in the water prison. Lee was trying to break out by evaporating the water off, and Nevi was staying calm and running his Byakugan on high power, straining to see any potential opening. Sakura materialized on a rock. Whoa, that's a rush. Okay, that chakra source is barely 3 times normal Jonin level. That's not Kisum. Naruto nodded, and dispelled Nii with him. Another clone next to her began forming a wind Rasengan. Sakura, you get the others out of the water prisons. On it. Tag, Myth Taka, Marlene, run interference for me. Her 4 summoned otters nodded determinedly, and plunged into the water, all except Marlene, who readied an atlatl. Sakura then blinked once, going from medical to earth. I plan on using his own terrain to get close to the water clones, then a spread of blasting tags. Naruto, anything you can has your clones do. The clone tossed Hoa kunai. That's another of me. He'll fire off a great breakthrough on the line you throw him. Really? Sakura switched earth to fire. Then I think we can blast the clones without harming any allies. I'll just throw a fire tech and let the clone boost it. The 3 water clones were focused mainly on supporting the prison techniques. One of their captives was thrashing wildly and almost breaking the water bubble. Another kept unsealing increasingly long polines, and that clone had to expand the prison to compensate, and the third was trying to use the Vental Fist to break the enhanced surface tension and pop the bubble. Thus it was with a certain surprise that a clone noticed the javelin sticking out of his sternum. A hail of other weapons followed. The damaged clone still cohesive enough to dodge them, along with the rest, and maintain the prison, but the battle was abruptly over when a roaring blast of wind boosted fire carved the water clones away from the prisons and dispersed them. Sakura skated across the water to a halt. Hey guys, all of you okay? Tenten nodded. I gave everyone oxygen pills as soon as the swordsman summoned a late. Her arm shot out to grab Lee and prevent him falling in the water. How many times, Lee? Pure fighting spirit is admirable, but it does not allow you to defy physics quite so casually as chakra. Behind Sakura, a massive blast of power erupted. She spun to look at it, and heard Tenten muttering behind her. 6 gates. Oh, come on, Sensei. That's just overkill. 6 gates. Must be the inner gates of Teivatsu fame. Sakura once more switched her non-water aspect to medical, strengthened her sight, and watched closely as Guy beat the Forks Kisum to death. It was amazing. His body was moving so fast it set the air itself on fire. And it looked like the attacks were based off physical effect rather than chakra. That would be useful if she ever fought another chakra drainer. She hurried over to the site of the battle, forming off a clone to examine the non-Kisum, and scanned Guy for any after effects of the use of the gates. Guy, how has your body not imploded from that? She asked absently. Lee was badly strained last time he opened the third. My constant training is intended no longer to make me stronger. Guy explained. It is to make it so I can withstand the immense strain of the 8 gates. My body has the experience of my age combined with the spirit and endurance of youth. She nodded. Now see, if I ever has to open the gates, I'd just flood my body with healing chakra to minimize the damage. A most youthful approach. 3 Narutos appeared across the lake. W Guy, you got him first. Sakura, we're moving out. One of Kakashi's summons found the trail. Gay's still capable of movement, don't ask me how, so led on. Nevi extended his senses. 4. There are 4 seals in addition to this one on the cavern wall. Sakura, meanwhile, had been examining said seal. This thing is nasty. It's going on about punishment to the breaker and defeated by their own power. I hope it's not another damn chakra drainer. Naruto formed another set of clones. I'll get a clone to take each of the seal tags off, and one of Team Guy can follow to make sure nothing too bad happens. Earth, water, rock, or grass mounded up to form a copy of the Naruto clone who had taken the seal off. Guy and Lee's fists, Neji's palm and Tenton's ballistic cannonball destroyed the duplicates before they finished forming. Naruto shrugged. That was anticlimactic. Sakura nodded as the dust cleared, then the inside of the cave became apparent. A great, chained statue with a person on each finger, but one. Glowing, blue dragons of chakra enveloping the Kazekage. And all but two Akatsuki members were transparent. Sasuke's eyes flicked across the assembled members. Itachi Kisame, Konoha Hiko, with Rinnegan Deidara, Sasori, Zetsu Hidan Kakuzu. No Madara. His Sharingan activated. And apparently this is more than a normal illusion, it's still there to these eyes. Sakura gasped. That statue is just evil. Or maybe not evil, but alien. There's orange-yellow yukai draining into it from Gaara, it's extracting his bitho. But the statue also contains two other types. White and green, by the looks of it. Naruto threw a wind Rasengan at the statue, blowing a crater out of it, but it healed itself in moments. Before he could do any more, the last of Gaara's yukai entered the statue and the half-real phantom vanished, leaving behind two of the criminal gang, and a dead Gaara. There was a whomp of displaced air, as Naruto dropped straight into his two-tailed state. Deidara grinned. 3 times. Oh, you want the Kazekage? Too bad, you'll have to catch it first. A clay bird erupted from the ground, engulfing Gaara and carrying Deidara out of the now open cave mouth. Naruto grimaced and gave chase Sasuke after him, summoning hawks. Kakashi spent a moment looking at Sasori, then apparently decided that his female student and the amazingly old Kyo could handle him and took after the others. Sasuke flew alongside Naruto's running form. Naruto. Drop the cloak and get onto Hayabusa here. Glancing sideways and seeing that Sasuke had indeed summoned a bird large enough to carry them both after the flying Deidara, Naruto let his cloak disperse and jumped aboard. The peregrine summoned a tailwind and soared up into the sky, Sasuke already firing sizzling bolts of lightning from his Raijin. Deidara snarled. I can't just blow them up, because the damn Jinchuriki's cloak is down and he's right next to the summoner. Leader made it very clear that he'd give me back to Awo if I killed a container before extraction. Damn it. He compromised with a shower of clay birds and bats, before taking out a storage scroll and dropping one of his C3 bombs off the side of his bird. Kakashi, racing along after the aerial dogfight, spotted the bomb, easily recognizable from the description given by Sand Nin Begin 2-4. Wincing in anticipation, he uncovered his Sharingan eye and focused. Kamui. A full quarter of his chakra vanished instantly to pay the demands of his voracious Manvikyo, which caught the falling bomb and sent it to who knew where. A Kidari Senbon shower caught the wings of the clay bird, neutralizing the earth chakra in its construction and sending it into a dive. Naruto made a pair of clones who replaced themselves with the main body of the now inert construct, and several more that began tearing it apart to get to Gaara. With a curse, Deidara unsealed a scroll full of clay and began making a new bird, intent on getting away. Now his pursuers were distracted. Sakura, meanwhile, focused herself on the puppeteer in front of her. To her sight, it was clear that the true enemy was not the shell she could see, but another tiny chakra source within. More than that she couldn't tell. Sasori opened things by lashing out with his poisoned tail. Kyo tutted and jumped back, an explosion a second later severing the tail halfway up the length. Still, Sasori, you have that problem in splitting your attention between attacking and watching what your opponent's chakra strings are doing. Sakura shot off a fire/wind technique that looked like a comet and scorched a line along the outer shell of the puppet, and turned to the old woman. Don't offer him tips. You wound me, being so disrespectful of your elders and betters. A water technique, this time dousing a storage scroll and ruining it before it could be opened controllably. I know someone at least 10 times older than you and he still appreciates criticism. Stop playing on it. Sakura switched an aspect back to fire, and rode out a gush of napalm by using her innate fire resistance in that state, that allowing her to make the liquid simply roll off her skin. Kyo's chakra strings lashed out, taking a piece of the floor and throwing it at the Herko puppet's face to intercept a blizzard of senbon. And again. I don't know why you keep making these elementary mistakes when facing another puppeteer grandson. With a clang, the senbon launcher was bent by the rock and rendered useless. Herko's left arm launched out and started firing senbon needles. Sakura created a gusty barrier in front of both herself and her ally. Elder Kiyo. What is it with puppet users and senbon? Ammunition issues. Mainly. We never seem to remember the simple way that kunai can be stored in storage scrolls. That conversation was interrupted by Herko charging forward, apparently to attempt a close combat attack. Sakura glanced around in case there was some kind of Akatsuki spy left to report on her moves, then formed a keening flame raising gun and forced it into the puppet with a backlash of plasma. Sasori tumbled from the flaming wreck and stabilized himself. Impressive. You destroyed my 18th puppet. I think I'll kill you first. His opponent frowned. Shouldn't that be favorite? Same difference. He unsealed a puppet version of the third Kazekage with a lightning movement, and began to form the iron sand with it. Sakura's jaw dropped. How the hell does that even work? Controlling hidden mechanisms is one thing, but I know from Gaara that sand manipulation like that is an entirely mental art. Sasori shrugged. It works, so I don't question it. A stream of iron bullets began to shoot towards Sakura, who wrapped herself in a vortex of wind, boosted flame, and was gratified to see that the fire could melt the bullets out of being sand and apparently demagnetized them in the process. One of the bullets that hit her tingled faintly. Sakura picked it up, and smelled something that she couldn't quite identify. She dashed behind a rock and dropped the flame vortex briefly, switching aspects to re-enable her medical side. A quick sniff confirmed it. Elder Kiyo. The sand is soaked in poison. Kiyo was protecting herself from it by this point with a large slab of rock from the floor of the cavern. Well then, little miss, please sort it out. Tsunade's protégé you may be, but you might nevertheless be capable of handling something as simple as that. Sakura dropped back into true sight, and took one of her prepared antidote jabs. Bringing up an armor of earth around herself and maintaining the medical aspect to some chakra scalpels, she lunged forward from the rock in a precisely targeted body flicker. A quick dance of scalpels severed all the chakra strings directing the third Kazekage, and Sakura summoned 3 otters with one simple command: steal this. With a pop of displaced air, the Kazekage puppet vanished from the land of wind. Sasori clicked irritably. You already destroyed Herko. Now you stole my 18th puppet. Sakura landed lightly. You really need that speech impediment sorted out. And how can you claim 2 puppets as your favorite, anyway? Herko was my favorite. That one really was my 18th. Oh. Fair enough then. Regardless. To show you the true reason I am a member of Akatsuki, we need a little more space. Snapping his fingers, he detonated explosives all over the cavern and brought down the roof. Sakura emerged from the ground with an underground move technique and saw Kiyo bring out 10 puppets from a storage scroll to defend her. Sasori's cloak was gone from the avalanche, revealing him in all his glory. As a puppet, Sakura couldn't help but snicker. Wow, I've heard of body sculpting, but that really goes a little too far. Tell me, do you have to worry about termites? Enough. Observe. My performance of 100 puppets. 143. Sasori looked thrown. What? I'm good at counting fast. There are 143 puppets there. And is it me, or are all of them connected by chakra strings directly to that tiny bit of your chest that is the only thing with actual living chakra? Kiyo looked over to Sakura. He's still alive. Only the thing in his chest. Want to bet it's his heart, for a brain and life support system. The elder turned faintly green. That's disturbing even to me. Sasori fired a stream of ultra-high-pressure water at Sakura. You will pay for exposing me. Thanks for the confirmation. Sakura threw a quick V sign, then flickered away from the attack and started punching puppets. Big sword sort of cleaver-shaped, must remember to find that for Tenten. That one has glasses, weird. Wait, those 2 has the Sharingan. How is that supposed to work? She punched both of them extra hard, destroying the mummified eyes completely. Kiyo noticed that over the course of the battle, the pink-haired girl was keeping herself in the air by way of recoil. And that she was gradually pushing forwards to reach Sasori. Girls smart too. She chuckled to herself, noting that one of her puppets had been destroyed by one of Sasori's, what that boy was thinking, when he made a puppet absolutely full of napalm. Well, I suppose it did end up working. Sakura performed another summon technique, as she was hidden in the blast of smoke from a 20th puppet. By now, she was noticing a gradual acceleration in the remaining puppets and decided to end it ASAP. Taking a javelin from the otter she'd summoned, she dismissed him once more and threw it as hard as she possibly could at Sasori himself. Elder Kiyo, she called as she descended. The fewer puppets he has, the more he can focus on them. The elder nodded. I see it, girl. He'll be better than me if he dips below 60. Sasori cursed. The javelin had come in at a startling speed, and though he'd been moving too dove, it still hit him in the leg and nailed him to the floor. It's over. Sakura yelled at him, bringing up a flame Rasengan and ramming it into his torso. She then replaced herself with a nearby puppet, and let the Rasengan destabilize. Just to be thorough. Because just ramming a Rasengan into the opponent and expecting that to work was Naruto style. Kiyo panted, stumbling as the effort of the intense battle got to her. Sakura. Do you has any more of that antidote? I took a couple of senbon during the battle. Only one vial, but that should be minus. One of the puppets reactivated, and caught Sakura in the thigh with an arrow. Kiyo gasped. That's not the core puppet. What minus? Oh, no, Sakura. His heart capsule escaped. Sakura turned, her medical aspect taking note of the poison already entering her system, and launched Sasori's original body at his new one. On fire. The heart capsule jumped bodies again, though Sasori appeared unable to split his attention enough to re-establish control of additional puppets. The elder grimaced. I had hoped I wouldn't have to use these. She took a storage roll and stamped on it, unsealing the pair of puppets known as the mother and father. Sakura. Take out his unused puppet bodies. Stumbling slightly, Sakura formed Naruto's favorite hand seals and created 2 shadow clones. The drain left her gasping, but she could cope. It was mainly thanks to the way she'd overloaded the clones with chakra. Both of you go fire and wind. I'm splitting off my medic and water aspects from normal usage to concentrate on this damn poison. The clones nodded, concerned, and jumped away to begin incinerating the remaining puppets. Sakura herself winced. Creating a split between the aspects her shadow clones used and that her main body was using was really hard, damn it, leaving her feeling like her soul was being pinched in half, but she didn't have a choice. She had got a massive dose of the poison and had to fix that, but Sasori's puppets weren't really destroyable from range short of fire-wind attacks. After a few minutes trying to stop the poison leaving her femoral vein and pushing as much tainted blood to the wound as possible, she felt her split ease and looked up. Most of the landscape was on fire. Sasori was in a backup copy of his original body, impaled by the mother and father. Kiyo left them in that tableau and hurried over. Sakura. Are you okay? Damn it, this really hurts. I think I could normally pull through, but I don't have the chakra left to fight the poison. I didn't realize how damn much there was when I made the clones. The elder then formed a set of chakra strings, rummaged through Sakura's supply pouch, found the antidote and injected her with it forcibly. Her eyes widened. Elder minus. Save it. I'm so old I'm mistaking people for their parents, Sakura, whereas you've got so much longer to live. Besides, the KZ kid is dead and we need him. She cackled to herself, the tone somehow melancholy. Who'd has thought it? Me, old mad Kiyo, making the supreme sacrifice. Oh well. At least this way I don't have to let the poison kill me. Sakura sighed, and struggled to her feet. I've got hardly any stamina of my own left. Easy. She crowed, and attached chakra strings to Sakura. Now I can help a young lady across the stream. Bet you thought it was going to be the other way around when you saw me, didn't you? Kiyo captured another large puppet in her strings and animated it. Any idea where those teammates of yours are? Sakura sat back, full of deep fatigue, and opened her eyes to the world. It was easier now. Most of her chakra was expended, actually, but since she was getting a hazy feeling on the edges of her mind as her senses expanded, that probably wasn't good. Then she saw the sun-bright blaze of Naruto's chakra. North by east, 8 miles. Naruto and the male members of his team stood, sadly, over Gaara's body. Team Guy arrived, having failed to catch Deodara. Guy looked down at the boy. I am truly sorry that one still so youthful has been taken from us. Lee nodded, tears streaming down his face. Naruto reached down and made 2 pick up the Kazekage. We'd better take him back, the burial. Hey! Came a rasping shout. Don't do that yet. I haven't done my noble sacrifice yet. The ninja all spun to see Kyo approaching on a puppet. Sakura sat next to her. Sakura. You're okay. She nodded weakly. Somehow. The elder stepped down from her chariot. Now then. He's mostly intact. So this should work. If I recall correctly, the extraction of a tailed beast is fatal mainly as it rips the soul loose from the body. No real damage apart from that. Nope. She began making hand seals. Elder, what are you doing? Kakashi asked, recognizing only some of what was happening, but not liking it. It's a resurrection technique. The puppet brigade invented it, with my help, to restore life to humans made into puppets or act as a healing technique. She laid her hands on Gaara, frowning at the pale blue glow. Mind feeding more chakra into the technique, someone? You'll do. The other Jinchurikai. Anyway, it got labeled a forbidden technique, because if you used it to resurrect you promptly died. The puppet brigade used to be much larger. Sakura raised herself, with some effort, struggling to see. But why? Elder, why are you giving your own life like this? I'm dying anyway from Sasori's poison, aren't I? I may as well. Tenten gave an embarrassed grin. We has about 10 more vials of the antidote spread over our team. Shut up. Don't spoil my noble sacrifice. The Pinkett raised her hand. I think I could send an aspect into death to get Gaara's soul back, and then just recreate minus. Shut up, shut up, shut up. I want a noble sacrifice, and I am getting one. But the rules are slacker for me because I'm part minus. Right. I don't have to listen to any more of this. Kyo rammed her remaining chakra into the technique and collapsed. Gaara slowly sat up. What happened? Last I remember was making sure Suna didn't get blown to pieces by a clay bomb in the Kiloton range. He then looked around. And where did all the people come from? Naruto glanced away from Gaara. Gaara. The entire population of the village of Suna was standing around them in the meadow. What? But how? We're practically two fire country. The 5th Kazekage is beloved by his people. Sakura moved painfully. And you? You're supposed to be in hospital recovering from poison. Kankuro winced. And as for all the civilians? How? Temari shrugged. They insisted. Excuse me. But what happened while I was unconscious? And dead? Naruto muttered to himself. Well, basically, Akatsuki got you, stole your Bivu and killed you in the process. Then Team Kakashi, Team Guy and Elder Kyo managed to save your body, kill Sasori of the Red Sands and the Elder resurrected you. So, they have Shukaki then? Naruto nodded. Sucked the old Tanukai right out of you and into their weird as hell statue. We think here. He crouched closer to Gaara and threw up a wind wall around the conversation to prevent eavesdroppers. They're trying to put all the Bivu back together to make the 10 tails. Gaara quirked an eyebrow, cut his palm and flipped through some hand seals. Shukaki rematerialized on the nearest clear space. Naruto stared for a second, then fell over laughing his head off. Kakashi signaled to Baki. I think the events of the last minute are to be considered an S-rank secret. I agree. Sasuke strode over to his teammates. We need to talk. Oh. About what? I spent a month last year on the Ares of the Plains. We need to pool what we know, and what our summons can tell us about Akatsuki and that statue. Sakura nodded. I can see the sense in that. We know so little about the world beyond mere humanity, after all. Where should we meet up? Naruto snapped his fingers. I know. We can use the Forest of Confusion. Or Mystery. But that's mainly because foxes are like that. Elaborate. Can you see anyone eavesdropping who we don't invite? Considering this, Sasuke nodded. Fair enough, but I want to bring in one of my main contracted summons to share his perspective. Are the foxes going to be okay with that? I'll check. Mandias. The old Arctic cricked his neck. Afternoon. What's up? We need to talk about stuff that's very nearly as old as you. Can we use the forest? And can Sasuke bring a hawk? No problem. Your teammates are contracted too. I and Oki for Sasuke, and Nii for Sakura, right? Sasuke nodded. Sakura added a yes. Right. I'll get Lani to put the tea on. We confirmed that the public leader of Akatsuki does indeed has the Rinnegan, though he looks quite different to the person who Freya of the Toad says possessed it at that time. In fact, he resembles the boy who was the teammate of the old Rinnegan bearer and Kanon. Also, they extracted the Ichibi from his container by way of a large statue with 9 eyes and a mouth locked open. The form of extraction was illusory dragons, which drained the Yukai from the Vinchurikai using their own chakra as a power source. This killed the Vinchurikai by expending their life by the end. Sasuke and Naruto looked to Sakura impressed. You got all that from a 4-second look. I'm good at insight, and I was running my sight. Anyway, the dragons themselves had no chakra at all. That can't be normal, right? A slightly harsh voice answered them. No, it sounds like that was a directly soul-based attack. Mandias shifted himself and looked to the 5th member of the group. Sasuke had summoned the small hawk by name, and everyone present knew that he had to be more than he seemed due to the vast chakra cost of the summoning. In fact, it was on par with a boss summon. I'm unsure what I can contribute on that angle, except to mention that the last time I encountered a soul-based attack was in the annals about the powers of the save of 6 paths himself. One of the 6 paths referred to involves delving the knowledge of any being by direct assault on the soul. Another can exact fatal penalties for lying soul destruction, while the treasured tools artifacts from that era can attack the word soul. So we may surmise that the statue is either an artifact from the time of the save, or created using formerly lost knowledge. Thank you, Save Initiate Tobias. Mandias then turned to the 3 Chunin. I should make it clear, the save of 6 paths was on a level beyond anything you have experienced. If one of your foes possesses the Rinnegan, they are extraordinarily dangerous. Allow me to put it into perspective. None of you are entirely human. Naruto's chakra, his essential being, is approximately 1% golden and 2% Yukai. This is on the level of contamination normally, but grants him the power to transcend the limitations of the human form by shapeshifting, regenerate, live a longer life as with all his clan, and potentially other superhuman feats of chakra. The first 2 Uzumaki containers of Millie used their chakra to form solid real-world objects, while the first Hokage, a distant relative of theirs, could use the wood release, in fact, could create life. Normally, the effect of mixing earth and water should be much more mundane, something like a facsimile of wood, or sterile wood, or generally speaking a more mobile form of earth. But as the Great Forest of Fire country proves, he holds the power to create life in truth. Sasuke, meanwhile, has 1% black chakra. This is entirely bound up in his eyes, as with all Uchiha, and lets him break the normal rules of humanity in different ways. He can memorize things with no issues, make deductive leaps when it comes to kinesthetic learning on having just barely the information required, and predict the future by the barest second. He also holds the potential to unlock the Manbikyo like his brother, which can potentially create fire beyond normal fire, cause rips in space and time, form a solid object with chakra, alone the Suzani, as well as attack the mind with a glance. I am sure you see the theme. All these powers go beyond what normal humans are capable of. Mandias then turned to Sakura. Sakura, here, is another example. Her divine heritage is not fixed as both of you are, but fluid, since her parents both possess the vestival touch of a different deity. She has to mold it herself, but the effects are already becoming clear. Amazingly fast technique mastery, the ability to manifest contradictory powers, instinctive understanding of written celestial, and an aspected soul. Sakura raised her hand. I had a strange experience. Actually. When I broke Itachi's illusion, words sort of came to me. A single short line in another language. But I could still understand it. And now, the music I've heard in my head for quite a while, some of it makes sense. Oh. What was this other language like? Sung. Beautiful, musical, like every syllable was a world of meaning. Can you remember it now enough to repeat it? I'll try. Sakura closed her eyes and meditated on that exact moment, listening to the verses in her soul. She heard it every few minutes, so. There. I am the legacy of the gods. Mandia's jaw dropped. That. Well, that, young lady, was the spoken form of celestial. Hang on. Some of the words I understand are the same as the ones in later parts of that music. Mainly pronouns, but it means I can tell the cadence. There are 9 lines, 2 pairs of them shorter than the rest. Tobias clicked his beak. Soul aria. I agree. Mandias then sighed heavily. Sakura, you've just started down the path few ever even find. The route to your true name. They're always in celestial, and come at the end of a verse about the truth of your soul. That your entire verse is in celestial may be a result of your heritage. Is that good, or bad? Good. Very good. If someone else knows your true name, and you don't, then you has quite a problem, but if you know your own. Oh, it's the basis to so many things. Naruto grinned. Do you know yours? Yes. My true name is Ozymandias. The word hung in the air, speaking of might and renown, of a glory in all things and of remembrance and forgetting. Of age, dimming a light yet never letting it entirely go out. The Vinchorikai grinned. I remember the stories you told me last year. You were a hero, all right, several hundred years ago. Indeed. But we went off topic. I has mentioned Sakura's many abilities, including the first line of her soul aria, at quite a startlingly young age to underscore a point. After 3 years of expanding the divinity of her soul by developing more and more aspects, her chakra is about 5% golden. This is frankly remarkable, and it is my estimate that she will ascend to some rank of divinity before dying of old age. The save of 6 paths was at most 50% human. Silence filled the room. After a moment, Sasuke raised his voice. Did you say at most? Yes. Exactly. The save invented chakra use was able to fight and defeat the 10 tails of beast more powerful by a factor of about 2, then merely seal it into himself and upon his deathbed split it into fragments, endowed them with sentience and created the moon to hide the 10 tails body. The 3 just sat there. After about a minute, Tobias let out a loud screech. Naruto pitched forward onto his nose. Ow. What was that for? You'd all stopped responding. I felt it was a good idea to check you could still think. What's with the chalkboard? Naruto finished setting it up in the training ground. We need to know what moves Akatsuki either do or could know we had. Those are ones Jay'll be expecting. Right. Gotcha. Sakura went to the board and noted down her enhanced strength medical skill and a number of complex, elemental techs including the flame Rasengan, then added her aspects in the maybe column with most of the elemental techniques. What about your summons? Oops. Forgot. I used them against Kisame and Sasori, but both were pretty quick. They might not know. Now, anyone who saw the Chunin exams will have seen it. She put summons in the will know area. Sasuke put down the flame Rasengan in the maybe area, reasoning as he did so that his fire affinity was well known. Raijin went with it. Naruto completed the analysis by adding his shadow clones Wind Rasengan and Blizzard version and his tailed state. Right. Now, got it memorized. Both nodded and he promptly blew it up. We better work out what their counters might be. And now we have Sakura's experience with an Akatsuki member to work from, perhaps see how we can evaluate them. She agreed. My assessment was that he wasn't quite as tough as Tsunade of the Sannin and definitely less so than the Hokage, but it wouldn't take more than maybe 3 people of that caliber to kill off a Sannin. And Sasori was a fairly minor member compared to Pain or Kanon. I'd venture that they could beat any of the Sannin, especially if Kanon's an honest-to-goodness S-rank criminal kunoichi. Even S-rank loyal kunoichi are rare as hell. I can think of 2, Tsunade and my Terem of Mist. Criminal's a relative term. Rain Nin actually worship her as an angel. Remember those genin we met in T? Right. But as the Pain. Yeah, Freya said that if they're still alive, then it's because they beat Hanzo the Salamander. For those who might have missed it, the Sannin got their fame and title for surviving against him. Sasuke looked wistful for a moment. That'd be nice. To be so strong that merely living through a battle with you is a badge of honor. So. To business. Deodara. Weakness is lightning, but he likes to keep people at massive range. I think if Naruto and I tag team him we might get him Naruto for the cannon fodder and, because his tailed state can soak a lot of the explosives, and I can get up in the air and use the Raijin to keep him at bay. Good. That's one we has an actual plan for. I'll add that it'd be a good idea to has a reverse summoner ready and waiting for the signal in case he tries to mushroom cloud us again. Sasori's dead. Hidan. Don't let him take your blood. I don't know. Naruto might be able to handle things with his regen, but I doubt it'd be that effective. I can't manage to heal too much brain injury, though if I just swarm him with as many tail clones as I can, I might take him out. They don't bleed. What about elements? And has you considered building yourself a better, tougher form to shift to? Dossiers don't mention them. I think he's just an offensive taijutsu master, with a weird as hell weapon and a demonic contract. And nice idea. I might look for one. Kakuzu. All I can say is ouch. Fighting him sounds like fighting the Hokage, where only a heart shot counts and he has 5 lives. Those attacks of his could probably blow through several tails of chakra. I propose we work on finding a way to make him eat raisin shuriken. Or at least a lot of elemental raisingen. Sakura held up another scroll. Waterfall has some information on the nature of the earth growth fear tech he stole. It's nasty. Basically, the threads mean he's not limited to one body, though each needs a heart and that he can puppet anything. Sasuke took it. Is the earth in the name indicative of the element? Doubt it. His original nature was water. I think it's just a massively complex untyped technique. Threads. Fire. Unlikely to work. He has something called Earth Spear. We need to take out his Earth Heart before anything short of a Rasengan can touch him. Right. Naruto said. I think he goes in the paw on the firepower and hope for the best area. What about Kisame? Chakra draining water attacks and so much chakra, he could probably sub in for a tailed beast. Even a mass electrocution attack might not work, though I think if he takes a purely physical attack that hits hard enough he might go down. How much chakra are we talking? More than you, Naruto. Several tails worth. Though mists say his same hard as a separate living being and might be enticed to change sides somehow. Yeah, good luck with that. A guy called Kisame with gills, pointed teeth and shark skin with a sword called Same Harder and sharks as summons. Talk about meant for each other. Good point. Kanon. Negotiation, fire, water and surrender in that order. I once worked out how many explosive tags an S-rank ninja could make, if they put 10% of their chakra into it each day. And, well, it could take Fire Country off the map. Sakura winced. Point taken. Pain. We know too little about the powers of the Rinnegan, though apparently the gravity power does has a cooldown time. Best guess is massively layered attacks at range. That's your solution to everything, Naruto. It works. And I want an 18th birthday. Damn it. Zetsu. Compared to Zetsu, the powers possessed by pain are an open book. Not a clue. Suddenly Naruto clutched his arm. That was weird. Kuda vanished. I'd guess it's a signal. He formed the summoning seals and slammed down his thumb. Kayan Kori, usual deal. Mandias wants to see me. Kuda. Along you come. The little pipe fox phased back into his skin and the pair vanished. Very prompt, Naruto. A letter arrived to you from the crows. I think it might be from Itachi as a message. There's 3 scrolls in there, addressed to each of you. Thanks. Guess I'm ready to go back now. Naruto. This is the crow. I'm warning you that the last member of Akatsuki has joined their ranks, replacing Sasori. More is in Sasuke's letter, as this concerns him, but take care. Now that 3-tailed beasts are caught and the 3 tails has finally reformed, the Akatsuki are stepping up their efforts. You are the last target on the list. Additionally, the false person technique you faced was produced by Pain, but he received no feedback on techniques used against it. Your teammate's secret is safe. Sakura. Your aspects are as of yet unknown from the rest of Akatsuki, but your summons are known. Zetsu was using a phasing technique to observe your fight with Sasori. Since Kisame calls sharks, it would seem prudent to warn them of the danger they might pose. Sasuke. A silly-seeming orange-masked man called Tobi has just joined Akatsuki as a temp. This is the single most dangerous person in the entire world. Do not engage him, do not chase him down, and don't even let on you know who he is until you have fulfilled all the following criteria. Faced me in battle and killed me. Taken my eyes. Worked out a counter to a Manvakyo-based intangibility technique, and a Manvakyo-based space-time teleportation/capture technique. This is because Tobi is in fact Uchiha Madara. He wears a different mask. But it is indeed him. I cannot stress enough how dangerous this man is. Here is someone who repeatedly annoys an S-rank missing ninja with a known hair trigger and whose entire move set is lethal explosives because Deidara essentially cannot hope to hurt him. Finally, check Nanako's shrine regularly. The lore there may help you, but remember that most of it is mere opinion. Sasuke crumpled the letter in his fist. I'm going to kill him. Naruto and Sakura exchanged glances. Okay. How's about working out a way not to die before you get the chance? Fine. But this is a concession. So. Sakura said perkily. How do we beat someone who can go intangible? Surprise attack. So this is the shrine Itachi mentioned. Yes. Sasuke lit some lamps with an E-rank fire technique. It contains the hidden lore of the Uchiha clan, with the tablet at the core such that only an Uchiha's Sharingan can read it. Really? Might want to get Kakashi in on this, then see what his Mandakyo gets. Sakura said, then frowned. That doesn't look right. Naruto. Anything. The boy also stared at the tablet. Yeah, something's off. Wait a sec. This is hidden from normal eyes. And we've all got extra options. He entered Finchurikai initial stage just enough for his eyes to go red, and ran a finger over the tablet. Yep. Says the 10 tails is formed of the 9 Bivoa and its recombination means the near certain destruction of the order of the world. Sasuke blinked. That's not what that bit says to me. For me, it just says some guff about the blood-red path and abandon all bonds of kinship. The rest's illegible. I think it's instructions for attaining the Mandakyo. Neat. Sakura said, preparing herself to activate True Sight. Context-sensitive seals or something. Her vision went briefly into the heightened perception, then she winced. Ow. I think I got all the possible messages at once. Not sure why, but there was one that was clearer than the rest and I could actually read it. It mentioned the line of Bishman. Naruto swapped Yukai to save Chakra. Message has changed to me now. About how to become in tune with the world one has to not kill their heart. And something about child of prophecy. Sasuke turned to his 2 teammates. Naruto, if you turn out to be the Messiah, I will be very annoyed. So will I. Naruto replied. Part of the job description is generally martyrdom. Kakashi squinted. Instructions on how to gain the Mandakyo. Congratulations on gaining the Mandakyo, you has a limited free trial before you has to take the eyes of your brother. Thank you for upgrading to the full version. Ooh, it mentions Kamui on here. That would have saved a lot of time. Sasuke went alert. It explains the power of your Mandakyo. Yes, by name. And there's a second one levelable too. Kakashi looked closer. Who or what the hell is a Shinui? White fire washed over Kakashi for a second before leaving him looking absolutely the picture of health. His scar across his replaced eye was gone, his skin was free of the innumerable minor wounds any shinobi picked up, and his Sharingan flickered for a second, before deactivating, leaving a black eye in its place. Then he fell over with a thud. Neat. Sasuke said. Complete healing, though since your transplanted eye is still black, I assume that means it perfected the transplant. Not again. Oh, calm down. At least now you can turn your Sharingan off. Ino. Team Asuma turned at Sakura's voice. Oh. Hi, Sakura. What is it? Early birthday present. Sakura handed over a scroll. The last guy I fought used loads of puppets and this one's a puppet of the 3rd Kazekiv complete with his ability to control Iron Sand. Since you can possess puppets, well. Ino's eyes lit up. Thanks, Sakura. This is brilliant. Shikamaru frowned in contemplation. Iron Sand. As in mutable opaque solid. I like the sound of that. If I catch someone in my shadow possession, then Ino could just crush them in an iron coffin. Not to mention how the sand itself could create a shadow. Sakura mirrored his frown. Why doesn't the Nara clan just use Kusarigama? Shika froze, staring off into space. Why did none of us ever think of that? Let the thunder god be the herald of the storm's flight. Sorry, Sakura. Sakura looked up. I just finished tracing the root seal of the entire array. Everything else is descriptions of how amazing stuff. The reason for that little yellow flash is that the seals convert all the crazy radiation involved with light barrier breaking space-time teleportation into that part of the visible spectrum, but the root of the entire array is an intent statement. Thunder God is the name the seal array has for itself. Well, it also translates as lightning rod as celestials nuanced like that, but Thunder God is the closest translation to the celestial term, but I don't know why storm is also in celestial as a name. I'll ask if Mandias knows anything. He's the best versed in celestial. Your next mission is in Rice Fields Country to investigate the bases of Orochimaru. Why bother going after Orochimaru? He's still a good few months from his next body transfer, and that assumes he's going to switch again rather than keeping the prepared body with the dead bone pulse. If he has anything, it's time. I doubt he's making many plans now. Okay, good point. But we still has to treat an S-rank missing nin as a legitimate threat, even if we do has about 9 others to deal with. Naruto sighed. Whatever. Hey, maybe we can at least level one of his bases. Team 7 stood atop a massif in the paradoxically arid rice country, gazing across the terrain. Well, any ideas how we find a hidden village here? Naruto frowned. Does this country has a coastline? Yeah, to the north. Why? Naruto shrugged. Just thinking that if I were making a hidden village of sound, I'd play up the music and sonic attack angle, then make it under an ocean inlet that is a sound. Kakashi winced at the pun. That's distressingly possible. But we'd better has a look around here nevertheless. Sasuke's Sharingan flashed into life, and Sakura activated her true sight. The two scanned the area for several seconds before Sasuke pointed. There. The ground doesn't fit properly with the rest of the area. I'd say it's a hidden base. We'll check. Kakashi declared, before flashing his own Sharingan active. Yes, I see it now. This place is amazing. Sakura said, looking through the small but varied library within the base. It had been left effectively abandoned, but to some nasty ceiling arrays, but Sakura had managed to determine their meaning and feed their chakra-draining properties back on themselves. Good thing, too, as they seemed designed to absorb until they had more than the target and then blow up. As it was, they'd just stay in a logic loop forever. Sasuke shrugged, looking over a scroll. This seems to be the origin of the curse. Seals. It's a record of all the prototypes used so as to try to determine what works. Sakura glanced at it. Wow, it's that simple. All his failed seals were grammatically incorrect. Not all of us can speak celestial, you know. Sakura stuck her tongue out. I'll has you know I read it, and not very well. Does mean I have the last pieces of the puzzle, though, the first stanza always escaped me when I was looking at Anko's and I didn't know it was enzymic. I should be able to remove it within a day or two. Definitely keep that scroll for now. She went on to the next, and gasped. This one's how he does the freaky sword trick. This must be from the time of the save. I haven't seen anything younger that elegant and audacious except Naruto's dad's kunai. Sasuke looked interested. What's it like, then? It seems to be at least partly conceptual, and revolves around bridging the gap between illusions and reality. He keeps the Kusanagi, which, as I recall, is also an artifact from the saver's time in his mindscape. Sometimes I forget what cave-level ninja means. And then I hear something like this. It's one thing to know that the Hokage knows every technique not of a clan or bloodline, and another to realize that that means he has the perfect response to any situation. Tell me about it. I once asked Lady Tsunade what the seal on her forehead was, and it's a chakra storage seal that can be triggered to refill her reserves to overflowing twice over and regenerate her until it's discharged. All that. Sakura then sealed up the scroll in one of her own seals. Anything else worth keeping? This treatise on artificial bloodlines, and that's about it. Got the demo tag. Sakura pulled a paper square about a foot across from her bag, unfolding it to full size. Yep. This thing's going to level the base, if anything is. Get Naruto in here to charge it and set the countdown, would you? Naruto. Sakura shouted, as they ran to it. What? You said charge it with a lot of chakra. Did you forget I work on a different scale to normal ninja? Naruto said, panting the words out in the middle of a fairly impressive sprint. You put a tail of chakra into a demolition's explosive tag. And since you only set the timer to 5 minutes, we're going to be hard-pressed to get far enough away in time. Right. Good point. Hang on, Naruto formed seals on the run and summoned Ichimaru. Head south and summon me in a few minutes. Everyone else hold on to me. Sakura nodded in comprehension. Nice. How fast is Ichimaru? Nobody knows. Some say that finding out would ruin the magic. Orochimaru frowned. Kabuto, was that an earthquake? I didn't feel anything, Lord. Though I think I managed to work out how to create a version of the curse seal to allow the rocket effect Dogo displays sometimes. Very well, sign a dozen unimportant test subjects out of the base stores and give it a go. Orochimaru got up from his desk. I'm off to see if I can create any more new bloodlines. I has a feeling there's something that could be done with the lungs. Naruto, stay behind for a minute. The rest of Team 7 left at the third oblique dismissal. Naruto frowned. What is it, old man? Naruto. The third Hokage was unusually serious, even to him. You most likely didn't hear this, but when Orochimaru was pretending to be the Kazekage before he attacked me, he asked me when I was planning on retiring. Naruto frowned, not seeing where this was going. I replied that I was going to wait at least 5 years. 3 of those years are up, and I haven't changed my mind. I will give up my post hopefully for good, 2 years from now. He sighed. None of the high-ranked ninja of the village were the right choice. A cave has to be immensely powerful, wise, kind, and be someone who never lets themselves be discouraged. Tsunade lost herself in drink and gambling. Freya, well, you know my students' habits, and Kakashi wasn't reliable enough. To be frank, all of the people who are currently candidates weren't before they met you. But to get to the point. Naruto, I decided this a long time ago, and nothing I've seen since has swayed me. Make it through the next 2 years, and the hat's yours. Satobi smiled at the stupefied look on Naruto's face. Oh, and your team are all getting promoted to special jonin. You all deserve it, and I'm going to assign you to Akatsuki-related business from now on. 2 of you has special interest, and Sakura can keep you all healthy. Anko. The snake-themed kunoichi turned. What? Happy birthday. Sakura handed her a piece of paper. But it's not my birthday. Little Chunin. Sakura grinned. Actually, special jonin. The promotion came through an hour ago. And consider it an early present. She focused chakra for a second, and the seal array in the paper came alive. Let the subject be consumed by doubt, racked with pain, forced to dream of darkness, made to submit to the snake summoner Orochimaru. Her inner darkness eclipsed the light. Power flood her body, on her surrendered to her innermost fears and desires. On the call of submission, let the gates of power fall and flood this form with strength. 4 for the first, 3 for the second, and the second be serpentine and consumed with the lust to power, the battle to the snake summoner Orochimaru. The entire curse seal unfolded on Anko's neck in seconds, then the characters of Sakura's recently built array lashed out across her body to match them. Let the subjects will stand as a testament to the disproof of the other seal. Every year she has resisted temptation, remove a clause. Every time she has ignored the whispers, let their effects be reverted. Her every connection with the snake summoner Orochimaru rendered null and void, the tainted enzymes that fill her neutralized, the gates of her body open at her command alone. The 2 seals clashed for a moment, then imploded with a flicker of motion and left nothing behind. What did you just do? Anko asked shakily, feeling her equilibrium disrupted. As if something she'd been leaning against, pushing back, for years had just gone. Sakura held up a mirror. Last raid we found how the curse seal works, and I managed to design a counter to yours. It relied heavily on the free will clause, so don't know if it would have worked had you ever actually used the thing. Only disadvantage is that I think it may have severed your summon contract. Anko grit her teeth. This would determine a lot of the rest of her life. If she got the snakes again, it would mean she could still use many of those techniques that she had developed over the years, but would also be a new tie to Orochimaru. If she got something else, she didn't know how she'd take it. She focused her chakra and went through the hand seals. Summoning. Anko Mitarashi vanished from training ground 44. She picked herself up from the ground, which she absently noted was hard-packed and dusty, and looked at the enormous range of hills before her. Okay, where the hell am I? This isn't the snake place, I know that much. Indeed it is not. Anko turned. The 8-foot mustelid behind her regarded her calmly. Good afternoon. I am Belisarius of the Mongoose. My assistant here is Valentinian. The smaller mongoose he pointed to bore an expression of focused lethality. Belisarius stroked at them tied around his neck for a moment. What is a human doing in our traps? Anko blinked, then clenched her fists and leapt into the air, punching it. Hell yes. Sakura completed her current project, and blinked. Hey, Sasuke, can you bring the Raijin over here? Sure. What for? She removed the Hreishin kunai from the center of a complex seal array, which folded down to a simple circle about 2 feet across. I built an array with everything I know about Celestial 2, basically decompress seals in an artifact to tell if I missed anything. I think Storm in the tri-prong kunai is a true name. But anyway, it made a decompacted array that was fractally complex. I wanted to compare it with the Raijin. Sasuke shrugged, and put the unassuming hilt in the center of the circle. The array quivered, then exploded outwards to form a thick circle composed of horrendously complex seals. The Pinkett examined it for a second. Yeah, the two are about equal in complexity. That's pretty amazing, as the Raijin's a near indestructible weapon, and the only other things I've ever seen this detailed are the climate monoliths in spring the Bitho sealing array Akatsuki has and that fan Yuzito Ni was using in the border incident with Otto Ninja last year. Sasuke shuddered, remembering the sheer carnage she'd caused. The fan was a weapon once used by the Save of Six Paths, and the young Jonin had used it to beige a strike team of ninja from Sound with all 5 of the basic elements at once to overwhelm the cursed seal ninja among the group. Team 7 of the time had helped track the group, but Yuzito could clearly has done the mission on her own. Their presence was a mere diplomatic nod to Konoha. Wait. Some of those date from the Save himself. Are you saying my main weapon is similarly old? It's possible, though the special kunai aren't that old. It seems the 4th really was a genius of the highest caliber. She pursed her lips. The more I study, the more certain I am that the Save didn't actually use chakra the same way we do. Sasuke frowned. Think about it. The 3 great dofutsu all originate from him in some way, and all of them use chakra to do things we normally label flatly impossible. The Byakugan grants total perception of space-time in an area, and the Sharingan lets you exactly copy express chakra flows and movements after seeing them once from the outside. For starters, all that's instinctual minus. Exactly. Sakura began gesticulating. And most high-impact jutsu were invented in the last couple hundred years, things like the Kidari or the Rasengan or the. Oh. There's so many examples. But the Save is described as beating the 10 tails. You've seen Naruto in his 2nd stage transformation 4 tails last spar, and you really think that anyone, no matter how strong, could beat something 64 times as powerful as that with only a few years' worth of experimental techniques from first principles? No, he has 2 halves. Her voice tailed off, her eyes widening. What? Sasuke. What if your chakra control was perfect? I mean, completely and totally perfect. No hand seals, no vocalization, no practice needed. You didn't even have to consciously control it, it just did what you wanted. Your will made manifest in the real world. The Uchiha finally got it, and just went silent for a second. It's an awesome prospect. Yeah. Freya arrived unannounced as usual in the Team 7 training area. Naruto, do you still has that problem with save mode? Naruto nodded. I just find it impossible to hang onto when I move. Strange. Tell me, how did you train? The newly minted special Jonin shrugged. The old fox instructed me, and used a staff they stole from the toads to stop my transformations going wrong. You know that? No, I mean, what was your catalyst? Like the toads have toad oil that helps you draw in nature chakra. Draw it in. Nothing like that. In fact, Naruto made a shadow clone without seals, which promptly bashed its head against a rock. Stupid. I think I just worked out what I was doing wrong. I was merging my chakra with the nature chakra, not the other way around. Freya stared into space for a few moments. A single critical flaw in your execution, making it utterly different in style. Yep. That's you all right. His eyes slowly went gold and his face warped with the effect of his own save mode. Want me to get Fukasaki here for a bit of remedial work? Yeah, go ahead. He and Mandias can double team me on remedial saveness. Naruto's eyes went slit yellow. For a second then he materialized Mandia's. Got a problem, old guy. My save mode was basicwards. Mandias shook his head. I don't have the staff with me, you'll need to give me a few minutes to retrieve it. Now, your equivalent in the toads is about to turn up. He replaced the one you stole. Sakura wandered over as she saw Naruto and Freya doing something interesting. Oh Lord Freya, I was meaning to ask. Did Minato has a... She tailed off as a thought occurred. Can I has a look at the toad scroll? Sure. Freya added the toad scroll keeper to his summon technique, and while the two animal saviors began to beat Naruto up and down the training field, unrolled it. Why, want to compare it with your own? No. Sakura breathed, staring at the scroll. The penultimate signatory was still there as she had hoped. The fragment in Naruto's seal hadn't departed this plane of existence, so he hadn't entirely died. And far from Minato Namikaze, the scroll was signed Arashi. Storm. A true name. Naruto's father had worked out his true name and created a seal structure keyed to it. How old was he when he signed the scroll? She said, tracing the name with her fingers. It spoke of muted rumbling of strength hidden behind an unassuming facade, and at the same time, it spoke of the unbridled fury of a thunderstorm. As it should for a man who wiped out an army single-handed. Well, he was about 20. No, less, he was a teenager. Not very old at all. Oh, Naruto. She whispered. Your parents never cease to amaze me. Lord Freya, that's a true name. And I think I know how the Freishine works. Ow. Arg. Stop it, you guys. Now, Naruto Mandias chuckled. You're not used to the way save mode can be used in hand-to-hand combat, so you need to learn. You knocked me through a rock. That's just cruel and unusual. No, my boy. Fukasaki weighed in. That's this bit. Naruto's hands came up in a block, and the 50-ton lump of granite that had been thrown at him cracked in half. Good. You're getting more used to the effects you get from your activated body. Mandias said brightly. Then he nipped his paw and scattered the resultant blood, forming 3 copies of himself. Blood clones. Jail only go down to a fatal hit. Your objective is to beat them. As the two saviors watched Naruto begin unleashing a ranked win techniques in the kind of constant stream impossible for anyone with less than cave-level chakra reserves, Fukasaki leant over to Mandias. Blood clone. Took me 20 years to make that one work. Their disadvantage is that each one has its max chakra reserves deducted from yours plus about an S-rank drain to make each one. That 3 there is about half my limit with the technique, and more than 4 and they get much less useful. Mandias then winced. Ooh, 1 down already. He pasted it with a Rasengan the size of a house. Have to watch out to nope. That was number 2. Fukasaki glanced at the apocalypse of tearing wind that had destroyed one of the blood clones. What was that one? About 20% of his chakra reserves dumped into the surroundings as pure wind chakra from a shadow clone. He's certainly good at high-impact attacks. Then a bell-like screech was heard. Mandias and his clone both watched the forming, Raisenshriken warily. Okay, that's a close-in attack so minus. Then he threw it. Mandias' clone managed to jump aside in time, but found out the hard way that the save chakra holding the thing together was still under Naruto's control. It detonated and made a 100-foot crater in the ground, also disintegrating the blood clone. Freya, Sakura, Kakashi, Sasuke, Fukasaki and Mandias all winced in unison. He can throw that thing now. Holy crap, Naruto! Sakura shouted at him. What rank are we going to give that? Naruto shrugged, panting hard as his save mode cancelled itself. Is there an SS rank? Well, we'll has to bloody well invent one, won't we? Freya said. Recovering. Rasengan was a rank, the elemental forms and Great Ball form, both shade S if they weren't already the Raisenshriken's high S, as it basically kills every cell of the target. I feel sorry for that missing nin you beamed with it last year, by the way, and since it can now be thrown and is apparently even more powerful if that thing's used, you can write off anyone in a 50-yard radius of the line of travel thanks to that command detonation trick. In his office, the Hokage fell off his chair. Command detonation. For that monster. The old man then began thinking of what countermeasures he might be able to use against Naruto. A sort of mental war games. And came up pretty short. Elemental techniques. Fire would be the simple answer, But with an attack that fast and dense, it would just mean that instead of an enormous wind attack, heading towards me at vast speed, it would be on fire as well. Wind manipulation would be a possibility, but Naruto's got the chakra to overwhelm most wind users. Lightning. Just no water might work, but between save and Jinchurikai modes he's pretty well defended, and an earth element to boot. And as for earth itself, oh, that one's tricky. Summons. Inma's star form is made of a supposedly unbreakable material, but I don't want to destruct test that. And most of the rest of them are finesse workers, not power. Though a couple of them might has a trick or two. Non-elemental attacks are a major question mark. I don't know how save mode works well enough, but it does grant sensor capabilities. Naruto clapped his hands together. Right, that was nice, what now? Fukasaki nodded to himself. I know. You need to learn frog-style Teivatsu to use in save mode. Your fox style is fine for your Jinchurikai forms, but minus. The boy frowned. Save chakra's so powerful, because it involves 3 types of energy melding at once instead of 2, right? Yes. Since they're orthogonal to one another. Naruto continued, worrying at his thought. So is Yukai orthogonal to both bits of normal chakra? Because I think that's how the beast ball attack works. It is. Both savers were getting that sinking feeling again. The one that said Naruto was about to break the rules. So if I were to invent some kind of demonic save mode. Mandius choked. What? You said the save of 6 paths was a save. Could he has perhaps tried that? We'll discuss this later. For now, frog kata. Fukasaki insisted. In concept they're broadly similar to the fox style of long-range ambush, except that they focus more on the movement over concealment and on the single devastating strike. The elderly save took a stance. Form 1, Horn Toad. Then punched Naruto across the training ground. Now, see, the mistake there is that you didn't dove. Get used to it. Naruto dug himself out of the side of a hill. OWW. Right. Let's keep going. Very good. Dove. The Hokage watched through his crystal ball as Danzo shuffled some reports. Oh. Dear. Danzo looked across to his old friend. Problem with Team 7 again. Yes. Naruto's undergoing training to use close combat, in the manner of a save. Remember when Freya was doing that? The elder nodded. Oh yes. That was the time he became able to take a punch that would send him across a field. Exactly. Naruto's being thrown through rock formations. I think we'll need another C ranker, the earth element tune-in to fix the place. What, again? It's only been a week since the last one. Nevertheless. The Hokage winced again. Ooh, that had to hurt. But then, I suppose after what Naruto did to the blood clones, he sort of deserves it. It was interesting, seeing the whole of Konoha laid out below. It was even more interesting to feel the faint tingle, as the barrier/detection Thutsu across the entire village registered him leaving at about 20 miles an hour, then 2 seconds later returning at the same speed. Which brought up another point. He was heading towards the ground, and since he'd left it at half the speed of sound, hitting wasn't going to be a great deal of fun. Naruto evaluated his save reserves. About 20% left, 1 more minute. Should be enough. Wham. Everyone winced. Ouch. Mandias trotted over. Need some help. Someone throw me a rope. I am very far down. So why don't you do the underground move? Sakura asked curiously. My left hand is embedded in solid rock. Wow. Save mode really does make you more durable. So, a series of grave robberies from Fire Country monasteries. Any reason they're sending us to handle it? Naruto asked. Kakashi shrugged. As far as I know, they hope that sending such a well-known and powerful team will illustrate the value Konoha places on the friendship of the monasteries. Besides, Sakura and Sasuke between them are really good at forensics. Team Kurenai are as good at forensics, and Asuma was one of the 12 in his past. Why not them? Maybe Asuma asked his father he not be given the assignment. It caused a rift between them in the past, you know. Fine, then. Suppose I can do with the respite from being thrown at large lumps of rock, or sparring with the old toad. The boy stretched, getting the cricks out of his spine. Ugh, It's a pity that whole merger thing doesn't work for me though. Being able to be in save mode constantly would be an enormous boost. I'll just be fine with grabbing a few seconds every 5 or 6 minutes to recharge, hopefully. Naruto almost tripped, but caught himself by staggering forward a few paces. Well, I think I found one of the graves. Sasuke snapped his fingers, producing a light in the palm of his hand. I think you're right. Looks fresh. A wind element blade came slashing towards them out of the night, and Naruto snapped up his hand. Get back, guys. A blue stream of light from Naruto blocked it, and he began clashing in a swirling melee with the attacker. Sakura blinked. How did Naruto just make a wind chakra blade from his finger? He's producing them from all his fingers and thumbs, now. Sasuke commented. Impressive. Sora, stop. A voice rang out. Naruto's attacker disengaged and he followed suit, deactivating his chakra blades and examining his hands unhappily. This always hurts like 10 kinds of hell. Regeneration can only do so much. Sora, what was that about? An elderly monk walked into the circle of light Sasuke was producing. I told you that there was help coming from Konoha, and not a day later I find you attacking a member of Konoha's 4 seasons. Naruto sidled over to his teammates, clutching his hands together to staunch the bleeding. 4 seasons. Sakura nodded. I heard about it yesterday from Anko. She captured a bingo book on a recent sortie. We're known to be together as a team again, and as 3 being with Sai, they assigned us the name of 4 seasons minus I'm spring, your summer, Sasuke's autumn, and Sai is winter. Naruto nodded along. I get that you're spring, and I guess with my hair and eyes summer makes sense. Even that says winter, because of the whole emotionless facade thing, but autumn. Sasuke smirked. Autumn has thunderstorms. And we all has individual names too. Don't tell me you missed getting a look at someone else's bingo book during your training trip. Naruto shrugged. Not much chance really. Between all those high power attacks and working on Jinchurikai states, I didn't have the time. Well, the last loyal Uchiha in Konoha began, I'm called the Thunderer. Nice name, works well for me. Sakura's just called well Sakura. Must be that symbolism thing. Says the blackbird, which makes sense, and you're called Fuyuma Demon Wind. I like it. But I could swear nobody saw the Raisin Shuriken, which is basically the ultimate Fuyuma Shuriken. I only ever used it on solo missing Nin like the Land of the Sea incident. Sakura shrugged. Jinchurikai, strong wind element, the factors are already all there. Talk about appropriate nickname. And now that you're apparently generating wind element clause minus. It's just a single chakra blade, smashed into about 50 bits and shoved under the skin, all over my body. Hidden weapons, you know. And it only takes a tiny bit of chakra blade to make a very long wind blade. The monk and Sora had apparently come to some sort of agreement. Sora walked over, and prostrated himself before Naruto briefly. My apologies for my rash actions, Master Ninja. Will you follow us to the temple? Yeah, sure. Naruto looked around. Where are Yamato and Kakashi? Sasuke gave another smirk. I tricked him into saying Shanwi 2 hours ago, and Yamato had to carry him back to the hospital. Turns out you can go straight from inactive I2 Mandikyo technique. Sai frowned. So it is normal behavior that people try to trick other people into hospital. Sakura shrugged. For Sasuke it is. And since he's technically getting Kakashi to practice, it's probably justified. Shanwi could be an enormously useful technique, looked to me like it has the same chakra cost for healing any injury. Sora was isolated in his childhood because of the nature of his power minus. Before Cherki had even finished talking, Sakura activated her true sight. What the hell? Naruto, this guy's got some of Millie's chakra. Naruto's eyes went yellow. Old guy. Got a problem to you. Mandia's blinked as the smoke cleared from his summoning. Okay, what now? Didn't I see you just this morning? His summoner pointed. This kid has red Yukai in him. How? The Arctic fox frowned. Red specifically. If it were another color, it could just be some of the spare chakra from the 10 tails. Excuse me, boy, mind if I take a small sample of your blood? It would help me work out what is going on. Sora was getting a bit cross-eyed at how fast things were moving. Okay, I guess. He handed over a bloody chakra blade to Mandias, who licked it and grimaced. 4 tails. That's ludicrously much. Chakra 2 has leaked out of Millie, but there's no real alternative explanation. Okay, since Yukai is so dense, then small amounts of it can linger for a great deal of time. It might be that there was some left over from either the Valley of the End battle, or more likely given his age, the attack 15 years ago. In that case, then the Yukai could have been gathered up and sealed into him somehow. Problem is, using it would lead to his hindbrain being supercharged, overwhelming his intelligence, that sort of thing, since there's no moderating consciousness like there is with you and Millie. Though it's lucky we broke that sharing an illusion, or you using her powers would be even worse. Sorry, asked the elderly monk, but am I missing something? Sasuke's Sharingan blazed. Ambush. I'll take the Earth user. Sakura nodded. I call the bitch with the red hair. Naruto didn't bother to say anything, just charging the white-haired male ninja. Sai blinked as the rest of his team vanished off towards 3 of the attackers. It seems I am left with the weak one, Gen. His opponent laughed. That arrogance will be your undoing, Konoha ninja. She pulled a scroll from storage and began annotating it. The very earth itself is under my command. You will be unable to fight thanks to the number of traps that will surround you and minus. Sai dropped a pride of ink lions from above her. Failing to pay attention to the bingo book is a major mistake. That my nickname is Blackbird serves to indicate that I can create birds. That means I fly. Flew and dove underground and emerged a distance away with a handful of earth which she shaped into 3 staffs. Shut up. A quick splash of ink, and she was on a pillar rising into the sky. I'll still be able to minus. An ink fly exploded on her map, rendering it completely black. Sai felt vaguely like facepalming. And I thought you were the smart one, because you are clearly not on the team for your chakra levels. Or looks. She threw her staffs at Sai, and managed to hit his bird with 2 of them and dispel it. Not so cocky now, are you, brat? Yes. Came a voice from behind her. She started, but Sai pressed her too closely for her to break off. You has heard of clones, I take it. Because that was a clone you shot down. You really are not very observant. She blocked his first Tanto strikes with a staff. Shut the hell up. Sai's Tanto twisted in an impossible pattern and caught her across the shoulder, the brush in his other hand, producing a trail of ink along the staff that became a swarm of bees. You no longer has the ability to form hand seals since your tendons are destroyed in the shoulder. Unfortunately for you, Root Ninja specialized in crippling strikes. How did you do that with the sword? She gasped out, clutching her injured shoulder and keeping a close eye on the bees surrounding her. I am a water element. That means I can use my element to handle weapons better. Sai took her map and sliced it in half, causing the terrain to revert. This was poorly executed as well. You did not include the relatively simple step of making the terrain permanently altered. Sasuke rolled his red eyes. Earth. You actually has no other elemental affinity than Earth. How did you get to be a high-ranking ninja? Fudo launched off a pair of high-ranked Earth techniques to cause the ground to distort around Sasuke, hoping to give himself a chance to crush the irritating Konoha ninja. Sasuke dodged again, spun and launched off a spray of Kidari Shuriken from both hands. Ow. Fudo clutched his arm for a second. That damn Senbon went right through the rock. Did you enhance all of them with lightning chakra? Sasuke shook his head. Try again. Oh. I will. Fudo slammed his hands into the ground, causing a horde of zombies to rise from the earth. Tremble in fear before an army of the undead. Still Earth element. Oh. Dear. Your group isn't very good at getting intelligence on their enemies, is it? Sasuke drew the Raijin and spun it. Overage. With a crackle, the blade of the sword expanded from its former katana style to become essentially a broadsword. Thanks to the way only the hilt had any weight, Sasuke held it in one hand and formed a Kidari spear in the other. I'm one of the 4 or 5 best ninja in Konoha at the lightning element. And I has a legendary lightning sword. Oh. And my sensor also uses lightning. And my name in the bingo book mentions this. It also mentions that I have flying summons, but since these things. Sasuke looked vaguely disgusted and poked one with the spear. It fell over. Are so pathetic, I don't really need them. Jail still wear you down enough for me to get you myself. Fudo shouted from cover. Attack. Sakura and Fuka exchanged a series of medium-ranked elemental jutsu, the attacks flashing back and forth between them in bursts. Fuka frowned. How are you doing that? Nobody has that many affinities. How do you know I've not just trained all my elements up? You keep doing things without the conversion seal. Fuka flipped open her scroll and swapped into a fire element body. But there are still disadvantages to whatever you have. A shower of fireballs shot forwards. Sakura smashed her fist into the ground, producing broken terrain and a wash of water that she then animated to form a swirling watery shield. Yeah, no, I don't think so. You has a really bad little kinjutsu there. Orochimaru's is better. How dare you? Fuka's scroll flashed again, and she began firing earth spears. I has lived 100 years. He cannot claim nearly so long. Your weak point is your hair. Sakura launched a bolt of air-boosted flame towards her opponent. Oh, and his technique lets him layer affinities and so on instead of just having different bodies to each one. How did you work out that my weak point is my hair? Fuka growled, her appearance slipping and becoming more old and bestial. Sakura felt something well up inside her at the question. Insight is my way, she whispered, feeling the celestial syllables resound in the air. Then she replaced with the earth body as Fuka switched to a water one, rammed a marbled water Rasengan into the scroll to shred it and sliced off most of Fuka's hair with a blade of wind. And there goes her chakra. Seriously, who has their weak point as their hair? Then she frowned. Nice petal dance attack, though I might try to recreate that. Sorry, is this supposed to be hard? Naruto asked, watching as his horde of save mode shadow clones laid down a very nasty beatdown on Kazuma. Sure, he only had a few minutes of save mode if he didn't detail a clone to recharge power for him, but he preferred the option where he had hundreds of super-powered ninja everywhere. Oh. Boss. One of the clones asked, I think he's sort of dead. We forgot to pull our punches. Not used to them being able to break rock. He tried to ambush us, he gets what he deserves. Ooh, chakra metal claws. 2817. Sasuke muttered to himself, spearing the last of the zombies in the heart and shutting down the earth chakra of the animation technique. Am I supposed to be worn down yet? I can use the first gate, you know. Fudo burst from cover and minus. Zap. Sasuke spun the Raijin and lengthened it, cutting through the earth element armor his opponent was wearing. Seriously, are you this stupid? Earth elemental armor means nothing to someone with a legendary lightning element sword. He paused. No. Good. I did hit something vital. Sasuke deactivated his Raijin. Let's see. At least I left the body reasonably intact. A rogue member of the 12 should be good for a fairly impressive bounty. Kakashi and Yamato strolled into the temple. Now, where are our little minions? Ho. Sora looked up at them, absently tracing the lines of a Sakura-crafted Yukai containment seal on his arm. They left yesterday after solving the entire mystery and defeating a third of the 12 Guardian Ninja. Didn't you pass them on the way back? Kakashi shook his head. Jail has flown. They do that. Tobi addressed the members of Team 7. Good work. Now, I was wanting to assign you a rapid reaction force job. Naruto, since you have the summon that unites the rest of the team aside from Sai, you're essential for this. I plan to give each of the 20 teams being sent out to comb Fire Country for the Akatsuki one of the Fox single-use scrolls so they can call you in as backup. That is, if you and they are willing. Naruto nodded. They should be, and I am. Right. My plan is essentially for the Akatsuki members to be hit with overwhelming force straight away. I understand you has independent intelligence on their abilities, so use it well. Naruto, you has full authority for both Raisenshuriken and as many tails as you want to use, hang the consequences of collateral damage. You got it, old man. Sakura. Sasuke. Keep him alive. Naruto got a silly expression. I don't need them for that. You know minus. Sakura rolled her eyes. We'll make sure the clown here doesn't overstep himself. Kotetsu. Izumo yelled as their small team began being dismantled by the zombie brothers. The scroll. The Chunin nodded, firing off a large syrup capture field as he fell back under cover of Asuma's burning ash attacks and Shikamaru's new Kusarigama. The Nara's weapon turned out to work well with the shadow sewing technique and clashed repeatedly with the larger, more unwieldy version Hidan carried. Clear. He called and slashed blood along the scroll to trigger it before throwing it into the near distance. Kakuzu shot fire towards Asuma, who had two dodges. The attack couldn't be blocked by his wind blades and turned to salvo whatever summon they had on the way with a false darkness. Team 7 jumped up as Ichimaru vanished from their ready room. Naruto barely had time to say now. Before he disappeared, then a second later Sasuke and Sakura were pulled across the country as well. Ichimaru wound lazily out of the way of the lightning attack, using the relatively slow tracking it had against it, and summoned Naruto as soon as he made it behind a building. Naruto formed 3 clones which he set to gathering save chakra, called out Ara and Ni, and a final clone peeked over the bounty station and dispelled. "Okay, guys," he said as his teammates appeared, "it's Hidan and Kakuzu. I think the best bet is to try to hit one, or both of them with the Raisin Shuriken, and for that we need to hit him before they really know we're here." One of the clones vanished, and Naruto dropped into save mode. "I'll build the attack. Sakura, cloak the sound for me. Ichimaru, get the team to fall back." Sasuke drew the rage in. "I might be able to block those attacks Kakuzu has, but don't bet on it. Best bet is to annihilate him and then we can blast Hidan from long range until something sticks." The Raisin Shuriken began to scream as Naruto's shadow clones built it. "Suits me. Let me know when Asuma and Shika are clear." Shikamaru maneuvered his new weapon past the triple-bladed scythe his opponent wielded. The other ninja was too strong to allow the weapons to clash directly anymore. He had easily enough raw muscle to pull Shikamaru off his feet and into close melee range, and even the shadow techniques of the Nara couldn't gain hold of someone that strong unless the initial grab was a surprise. On the other hand, his expression quirked slightly as the curved blade caught his opponent on the shoulder and he started cursing. Then the blade shot down into the missing nin's shadow and immobilized him. Getting an entire Kusarigama made out of chakra metal had been flatly impossible, but a few experiments had shown that electroplating it was, so he could channel his family's unusual element through the entire weapon, as if it was a part of him. A blur of wind shot past, whispering something about keeping his foe still. Asuma grimaced as Kakuzu launched more and more powerful elemental attacks. That had been an earth one, and that a powerful fire attack that he'd had to meet with his own burning ash, more of a fire elemental club, that using an enriched fuel to boost his poor fire element, but it had worked and the exploding fuel/air bomb had blasted apart the attack. Then a blur of wind muttered to him that he should disengage and he jumped back beyond the cover of another ash cloud, catching the lightning attack that speared through it in his wind blades to nullify it. Now, Naruto jumped 50 meters into the air and threw his first Raisin Shuriken in anger. Once out of Sakura's sound suppression illusion, everyone on the battlefield heard it, the screech of a million knives on glass cutting through the ambient noise of battle. Kakuzu barely had time to turn before it hit him and detonated. "Yes." Naruto exulted as he landed. "Scratch one Akatsuki member." Sakura and Sasuke jumped onto the building. "Hang on," the Kunoichi muttered, trying to see through the haze of wind chakra. "That doesn't look right." "He's still there." Sasuke nodded. "I see it too. There's an area in the blast epicenter where the wind chakra's not penetrating." As the Raisin Shuriken collapsed, Naruto squinted through the dust. "Damn it. And I thought we had him. It's some kind of S-rank earth defense." Sasuke muttered, his eyes analyzing the traces of chakra coming off Kakuzu's skin. "And that means I need to take it down before you can hurt him." Kakuzu launched forward 2 S-ranked attacks at Team 7. "Everyone down." Naruto yelled, his 2 clones dumping onto the roof in front of them and channeling vast amounts of Yukai, about 7 tails each. Both clones still vaporized as the incredibly powerful attack scythed through them, but they got their original the time to grab both his teammates and dive underground. "Holy hell," Sakura said as they emerged 100 meters away, and Naruto set up a barrier jutsu. "How damn much chakra does he has?" That was 7 tails of Yukai. Twice. A lightning attack smashed into the barrier, flaring off in a violent aurora of dispersed power. "Ha!" Naruto crowed. "Thought so. 8 is just a little too much for you. Naruto. Are you fueling that barrier justy with about half the chakra of the Kyubi?" "Yep. I invented it to when there might be allies caught up in a battle of this level. It's called the bunker shield. Sort of an adaptation of that thing the Sound 4 and my dad did in the old man's battle against Snakey." "Got it." Sakura examined Kakuzu through the shield for a second. Okay. That's not natural in any sense of the word. He has 5 hearts alright, and each has a different chakra nature. No wonder he can run such a powerful earth technique. A high-pressure water attack steamed off the shield. Looks like he has tracking problems at short range though. And since Hidan just got decapitated by a sumo, he's lost his clothes in defense. Sasuke, think you can flicker that far? Sasuke snorted. Please. Though I wouldn't be averse to some cannon fodder. Naruto. Naruto nodded. I can't make many clones in save mode, but you want more a horde of credible threats, right? I can do a good few dozen two-tail clones. They'll evaporate like snow against that kind of firepower, but he can't let them in too close. Good. Sasuke closed his eyes briefly. I'll need to do a high-power flicker across that kind of range though, so get the clones to contain their auras poorly. I need interference so he can't spot the flare. Sakura winced. That's going to give me a headache. I just know it. Anything you want me to do? Keep an eye on Hidan, he's going to take more killing than that, I feel certain of it. 2 squads of a dozen two-tail clones, each leapt from behind the building. Kakuzu retargeted his attacks and began cutting them down like grass, noting as he did so that this Binchurikai had a lot less control over his aura than the other one, Yuzito ni. Perhaps it was because of the higher amount of chakra he had. Kakuzu formed a pair of water clones and swept much of the nearby area with a wind/fire combination attack. The sheer heat of the blast was able to destroy the clones even inside their chakra shroud, and his water clones began firing attacks at the other ninja nearby. Despite their nature as much weaker than the original, that his attacks still came close to killing his opponents was a striking proof of his S rank. Then something appeared sprouting from his chest. You know, Sasuke's voice came, if landing heart shots is this easy then there's something wrong with you. Kakuzu replaced with one of his water clones and volleyed out a pressure damage technique at Sasuke, before enclosing himself in a water encampment boosted by wind and turning the entire area into a firestorm outside the barrier. I'm not dead yet. Oh. I see. You're one of the Uchiha. That's good. It's nice to know that bounties come right up to meet me. His form distorted and began to split. Sakura winced. Ooh, that cannot be right. He's using the Earth Gruff Fear to split off his extra hearts into some kind of monsters. Brace their S-ranked attacks, everyone. Naruto let his clones disperse apart from 3, one of which began channeling save chakra again, and the other 2 of which were running the bunker shield. I can get 2 Raisin Shuriken off per save mode charge, Sakura, but when I go save I have to drop the shield. I'll have to carry you out of the way with a clone. Sakura shook her head. I'll just keep my distance and stay fire/wind. His wind attacks lose effectiveness at range and his water ones are too hard to aim. That's his original heart, by the way, but with wind up I can block his lightning. Watch out for the wind mask, the insect-like one. I think it could blast your Raisin Shuriken apart, and he knows about it now. Sounds like a plan. Naruto glanced at his clones. Go time. All 3 dispelled and Naruto leapt half a kilometer out of the way of a massive intelligent hard work fire blast that came in immediately afterwards. Sakura vanished into a concealment denbutsu. Right. Let's see. Pity none of them are close enough to something convenient to replace with. I wonder if I can somehow mess with his linking technique. No, a fire attack bathed the area and she ruthlessly suppressed her desire to run or react. Okay, he thinks I'm not here. The words came again. Mystery is my path. She blinked and shook the feeling of fire resistance is so useful. She ran in on the fire mask and switched her wind to water, beginning hand seals. The technique she was about to try was on the edge of being the combination of 2 elements, which she wasn't quite sure was restricted to bloodlines. I so hope this works. Certainly wouldn't try it without aspects, that's for sure. Boiling stream. A thin stream of water shot from her mouth bathed with flame as it traveled to heat it. She watched it as it traveled past the bounds of the concealment technique, and Kakuzu's fire mask abruptly spun to seek her out. So she triggered the fire chakra as yet unused in the stream, and the entire side of the water stream exploded in steam. The blast sent the trajectory of the water wildly off the original target, straight into the fire mask creature's dove. She had hoped that the water would prove destructive on its own, but if not she was going to go water/wind and boost the attack to give it a raise edge. Luckily that wasn't needed, as a lightning lance came sailing in from Sasuke's own private battle with the lightning element mask and charged the attack with electricity, which did it to her. Sometimes having a battlefield precognitive on the team was so handy. Fire mask. Down. She yelled before flickering in a complex evasion pattern and sending a shadow clone on a different one to let her restart her cloak. Naruto frowned in frustration as a raisin shuriken exploded on a pressure damage attack. Damn it. How many will it take? On hearing Sakura's shout, he formed and dispelled a shadow clone with but a thought to check on that side of the battlefield. Sasuke was still fighting the lightning mask. Sakura had just killed the fire one and he was facing the wind one, so where was Kakuzu? There. His chakra was well shielded, but still detectable. He was restoring Hidan. Brilliant. Hidan's back up. He yelled before checking his chakra sense again. This is going to be a real bore if it lasts another 30 seconds. Sasuke nodded to himself. Good to know. As another attack came in, he braced himself with chakra on his feet and swung the Raijin, repelling both his sword and the blast of lightning violently away from one another before they even touched. Does this thing ever run out of chakra? The mask seemed to consider him for a moment, before flying overhead absorbing Sasuke's lightning attacks more or less effortlessly, not that he expected them to do anything else, and trying to get Sasuke from a direction it was harder to block. The attempt was futile. Sasuke knew the counter to such an attack, and expanded the Raijin once more to the size of a broadsword. Asuma shook his head at seeing Hidan up on his feet again. Sloppy of me. I should have done something more permanent. Shikamaru shook his head. You couldn't have done anything permanent enough, by the looks of it. Though I think cutting him to bits and killing his teammate might work. The Nara took a roll of tags and wrapped them around the head of his Kusarigama. I'll go after Kakuzu this time, you stay on Hidan. A stream of hundreds of black bullets tore the lightning mask apart. Sasuke lowered the Raijin for a second. Finally, the monstrous puppet thing that had contributed them to the battlefield clicked over, and spoke in a high voice. Oh. Hello, Sasuke. Having fun? Ino. Go and help Asuma handle Hidan, you don't has any blood like that for him to take. I'll see if I can take Naruto's wind mask opponent. You got it. Sir. Ino's voice giggled, which sounded just wrong from the undead-looking third KZ kid, and began moving across to fight the machinist. Chovy stared glumly at the unmoving body of his teammate. I know that having a puppet version of one of the Cave of Sand is the best we could possibly contribute to the fight, but it seems wrong as doing nothing but guarding her body. A lightning spear impaled the wind mask's head, just as it began to block another raisin shuriken, and then the attack made it home and tore the mask to fragments, helped by Sakura sending in a fireball to set the whole mess alight. Naruto landed from his latest jump, and topped off his save chakra again. Which of us gets that kill? Sasuke shrugged. I already has one, Sakura has one. You're looking pretty poor at the moment, Naruto. I'll take it, if only because that at least means I'm on level pegging with Ino. An explosion sounded from nearby. Looks like Shika managed to get his Kusarigama past all those water barriers and pin Kakuzu. Any objections to me taking this one? Sakura shrugged as Naruto built yet another raisin shuriken. We couldn't really stop you at this point. Kakuzu couldn't move to direct his water walls properly since he was stuck, staring at Shikamaru from the shadow imitation Kusarigama pinning his shadow, and the ludicrously powerful wind attack tore him to shreds. Hidan went down to a second decapitation after being pinned in an iron coffin, after which Naruto walked over and blew the immortal up with a clone's hand-delivered raisin shuriken. Come back from that bastard. Good work, everyone. That's two Akatsuki members down, and both their rings retrieved. We'll send them down to the research division immediately. And Waterfall send their thanks, as well as a vast amount of bounty money for finally killing Kakuzu. Sadly Hot Springs can't send anything for Hidan, because he wiped them out, though the accumulated bounties on him from various countries add up to a great deal regardless. Oh, and Sakura, Sasuke, I heard you worked with Yuzito Ni last year. My condolences on interrogating the man found in the ruins of the building. We discovered that she had been killed, her bivo extracted and her body turned in for bounty. Naruto nodded to himself. She was the 2 tails container. Yes. The 5 and 7 tails containers are also dead, so Akatsuki is a little under half done. Explains the Yukai in the statue then. Sakura said to herself. On that front, the Three Tails appears to be finally reforming according to intelligence reports. Danzo gave a little wave at those words and went back to shifting through his papers. Since it's in our best interests to stymie Akatsuki wherever we can, we plan on trying to either seal it ourselves, or if that proves impossible, re-kill it. Naruto, any thoughts? Three Tails is a hell of a lot of chakra. And if it's the Bivo itself rather than a Binchurikai, it's a less useful weapon because of the lack of finesse, but much harder to kill all the sheer bulk for a start. Raisin Shuriken is powerful enough to be a threat to one, but if it's a turtle then it's going to be focused in on defense. Hard to say. And if Akatsuki interrupt our sealing attempt, that means a three-way battle with two S-class nin and a Bivo, not fun. Understood. You has a month before it finishes reforming, so game out some possibilities and report back to me. Chapter 4. Any luck? Naruto asked as he walked into the training ground, before wincing at a massive eruption of fire. Ouch. Sakura walked over, panting. Phew. Finally got that fire big ball Rasengan down. Anyway, apart from that, not really. Several ideas but nothing concrete. Well, a mission came in and the Hokage assigned it to us. Why? Sakura asked. We're assigned to a mission in a month and to train for that, right? Naruto shrugged. Seems that the old man decided that a good test of fighting a Bivo would be if we got all the missions related to other sorts of demons. In this case, demon country. I have to admit, it'd be interesting if I can apply that suppression seal of mine to a resisting target, Sakura mused. Right, I'll go get Sasori. What's he been doing? Messing around with the more esoteric sides of the lightning element. He said he got some interesting ideas after seeing the iron sand in that last battle. A greasy feeling developed in the air, like standing near a power line. Static sparks hummed on exposed metal tips. Sasori pointed the hilt of the Raijin towards a large hill, one that already bore the scorch marks of heavy use, as a technique practice backstop. With his offhand he took a small coin and dropped it, igniting the legendary weapon minus. There was a bang, a hiss, and molten metal splattered on the ground. He sighed. This should work, but he couldn't quite make it. A pity really, as if he could, it had the potential to match some of the great historical S-rank techniques. Forget the Kidari and all its manifold variants, this one was his answer to Naruto's Raisin Shuriken. It was just too hard to shake the electric field that precisely. Yet, he knew the Raikage could use lightning as an armor, so there was nothing theoretical against it. Perhaps if he used metal supports to hold the charges required. Sasori. Sakura came running up with details of their latest mission, and he filed away the prospect for later. So, Demon Country sent to aid. Sasuke's Sharingan flicked off, having memorized the order scroll. Yes. We need to go protect their high priestess, which of course means we need to work out a bodyguard plan. Sakura began flicking through her library of illusions. 20 or so shapeshifted shadow clones, a good start. Naruto asked and gestured for the team to move out. Let's see. I think I can get Kuda to hide on her for a bit, which will allow him to summon me to her if she's in immediate danger. Any details of the opposition? Sasuke shook his head. The details said that all their jonin, there are only 3 of them in the country, are accounted for, so that's good news. Sakura took over. Bad news though is that Morio's a demon who was known for giving his subordinates upgrades that amount to something not unlike the curse seal. Extra chakra source, more potent, that sort of thing. Both the boys glanced at her. You're the one with the most spiritual knowledge. What does demon mean in this case? She closed her eyes, rolling the name around in her head. Morio. Demon country demons are all pure black chakra, which means they're unnatural and powerful, but for the most part their bodies are weak. They're not anchored to the world like we are, so their chakra doesn't regenerate without a connection to a more powerful source. Morio's name means. I think it's an echo of his true name. Most exotic chakra beings has common names related to their true names. And I'm getting a sense off of the many. So you think he's a sufficient source of power, then? Yes. Above a certain point in human chakra becomes alive like human chakra always is, and is self-regenerating. Naruto shrugged. So much for just letting him exhaust himself. Anything else? Yes. Morio appears in legends, indeed, in some history books. He tried to conquer the world with some kind of terracotta army, but didn't get far, and all the soldiers of it were sealed away with his mind in one shrine, his body in another. And if one of the shrines was attacked, then it's going to has been the one with the mind. Naruto said with certainty. The others looked at him. What? Minds weigh less than bodies. Imagine carrying a demon body dozens of miles to the mind shrine. Okay. So we need to keep an eye out for enhanced soldiers. Sasuke brought them back on topic. And some kind of terracotta army. That one'll be hard to deal with. Terracotta's an excellent insulator and means that the offensive elements don't work well against it. Would it be bad form for me to go chakra cloak? Naruto asked innocently. Bad form? More like, never even try it. Sakura said. It's a country whose entire point is containing demons. Having one of the 9 apparently breaking free would mean Jade forget going after Morio and switch to you. Naruto winced. Right, forget that. He nodded to himself abruptly. Okay, Sakura should be the close-in support. She's got the most options. Sasuke, scout high and let us know if anything's coming in, then engage. I'll keep outer clone perimeter out and go to whoever Sasuke's not. Sasuke nodded his approval. Works for me. Infiltration countermeasures. You too, and I'll stop to recharge save mode every few minutes. Should give us enough warning. Sasuke then smiled slightly. Convenient. We get a live fire test of our newest techniques. Pity, I didn't make much progress on my current one though. Which current one's that? Sakura asked with a grin. Don't most of them use current? Nice one, Sakura. Sasuke rolled his eyes. You're corrupting her. Naruto. Oh. Good. The ninja has arrived. Shen looked over Team 7. I have to say, I am less than impressed. Naruto scratched the back of his head. Yeah, we get that a lot. Hidan and Kakuzu could correct you there, though. Shen blinked, then looked more closely at him. You have some kind of taint to you. I can't tell what kind. Then she looked at the others. And both of you as well. Why? I've got Kami blood way back in my family tree. Sakura shrugged. Less sure about where Naruto and Sasuke get their traits from ultimately, but both are descended from the save of 6 paths. I see. Shen frowned. So, which of you is the strongest? Sakura and Sasuke pointed to Naruto. Skill is something we has much more of, Sasuke began. But in terms of pure strength, you can't beat Naruto. Naruto pouted. That's mean. Good. Shin said. That means he will be the one to carry me. Wait, what? Then Shin's eyes flickered into a strange purple pattern. When they stopped, she looked Naruto in the eye. You are going to die. Naruto winced, then shrugged. Kinda figured. When? At the age of 93, with Konohamaru as the 6th. No. In the next few days. Morio's soldiers will kill you. Sasuke frowned. How? And how do you know? I see the future. And sometimes I predict the death of someone near me. That's why there's so few attendants actually here in the inner sanctum, they're afraid of it happening to them. I repeat. How? Shin went over the received memory of the future. In it, she had been stabbed in both lungs. So, as usual, she explained to one of the people around her that they would die in this manner, thus changing the future, so they would protect her fatalistically and she would survive. It was a cruel and heartless thing to do, maybe. But she had to do it only. She could seal Morio. It was to the good of everyone. Naruto snickered. That's it. Did you actually see me die? No. But it's obvious you did. Nobody survives having punctured lungs. Actually, Naruto can regenerate. Hell, I think Sasuke took out half his liver when he first tested the sharp spear and misjudged the length. The Jinchurikai winced with the memory. Yeah, that kinda stung. So don't worry, I'll be fine. Shin braced herself for another future vision. Nothing. Well, that was either very bad or very good. Either she'd die to the method she'd just seen, or she'd live. Actually, Naruto, thinking about it, Sakura mused might be a good idea, if she had some kind of body armor. She's not got a conditioned body like we do. If people are going to be throwing around ranged stuff. Good thought. Naruto thought for a moment. Tell you what, I'll lend her my Chunin vest. That'll stop most bladed weapons and I'll just substitute it with a save charge up. Both his teammates eyed it with some distaste as he took it off. What possessed you to dye it orange anyway? Naruto shrugged and handed it to Shin. It's my color scheme. My mum was the red-haired Habanero, my dad was the yellow Flash, it's frankly inevitable. I'm almost annoyed that my nickname has nothing about orange in it. Demon Wind is good enough, quit it. Remember, one of the Cave of Stone is called Onoki, the fence-sitter. Shin winced to spite herself. That's the name of a ruler. Yep. Old man Hokid has a much cooler one. Naruto hoisted Ho onto his back. He's called the god of shinobi, or the professor. Well, we better get going. Where's that shrine with the body of the demon? Swamp country. Naruto let her down again. That far. Sasuke, you up to giving us some transport? Sasuke nodded. Better do it outside. Though. They don't like buildings. Oh. Shin said suddenly. We'd better get Taro my armsman. Where's he, then? He showed us into the building, Naruto. Sakura sighed. Wow. This is amazing. Shin laughed, raising her arms above her and feeling the rush of air over them. Naruto made sure he had a proper grip on her. It wouldn't be good if the priestess of Demon Country fell off the hawk, after all. I'm sorry. Pardon. Naruto frowned, looking more closely at her. Her entire demeanor had changed in just the last few seconds. I said I'm sorry. When I told you that you were going to die. That wasn't true. I was going to die. It's how my power of prediction works. My soul jumps back in time after I die, and then I tell someone else they're going to die, and that way I survive. Naruto shrugged. Not a problem to me. But it might work better if you just said you'd received a vision of your own death, and gave all the details you could, that way they'd be able to protect you better, right? She smiled. I suppose I'm unlikely to get stabbed in a forest today. The gang of four continued their stakeout of Shin's shrine. Oh. Boss. Shizuku ventured. How long are those ninja going to be in there? Kusuna shrugged. Let's force them out. Gitai. Gitai took in his dark chakra enhancement, and slammed all four hands on the ground, sending bombs to blow up the structure. They watched as the dust settled. Did we just kill them? Setsuna frowned. Who did our Riken Genin say the Konoha team was again? 3 of the 4 seasons, I think. Kusuna volunteered. You idiots, there has 2 flight-capable ninja on that team. They might has left hours ago, we'll has to go and head them off before they reach Lord Morio's body. Kusuna gave Setsuna a glare for showing him up, then recharged Gitei's serpent and they all began running for swamp country. Hey, look! Sakura pointed, and the rest of the group spotted the terracotta army standing guard outside a structure below. Shin frowned. I think that's the other shrine. They must has got here before us. The 3 ninja exchanged speculative glances. Naruto came to a decision first. Sasuke, I need to get on solid ground to charge up my save mode, but once I am I'll cut you a path. Got it. Sakura. Bring Shin with you. Sasuke tapped the wing of his mount, which began to slip sideways in the air towards a nearby hill. What? You're going to stay behind, Naruto? Shin asked. Until those stone things are all destroyed. Naruto was unusually grim as he jumped down with the priestess. Those things leveled villages on the way here. I want them gone. Once they were on the ground he passed her to Sakura, who was enveloping herself in a haze of water, and began to concentrate. Shin watched intrigued as Naruto's chakra morphed into something else unusual, and his eyes slit. You ready, guys? Naruto asked. I'll start blowing them up, then work my way left. You head right. Both the others nodded, so Naruto formed a trio of clones and built himself a Raisin Shuriken. The army of ghosts turned, sensing in some way a new threat to their master. Then some of them blew up. Sasuke's Sharingan blazed. Naruto, you got full destruction of them within 10 feet of the epicenter. 10 feet beyond that their mission killed, but after that the stone armor seems to have stopped the wind chakra doing enough damage. I'd say switch to close in. Got it. One of the 3 clones dispersed, and another 2 formed to continue charging. Okay, 2 wind Rasengan each I think and I'll do blades. The Narutos leapt into the thick of the battle. Sasuke cloaked his presence with a fairly generic invisibility illusion. The constructs seemed to be more than mere golems, but he couldn't take the risk of the more esoteric Sharingan perception illusion. Glancing over at Sakura, he saw she'd done the same and added a neat little mist trick on top of that, using the droplets of chakra-saturated water in the air to refract her position relative to the mist. Nice. Can you keep that up for long? Sakura nodded confidently. Once the water's chakra-charged, it takes very little power to keep it in place. And it's also reconstitutable into a quick, cutting water dance. I approve. Okay, I'll go in 5. A massive detonation sounded from the valley below, where one of Naruto's clones had fired off something that looked a lot like the Atsuga technique Kakuzu used. Another, which Sasuke guessed was the original since it had the chakra blades coming from elbows, knees and fingers, began the third form of the fox style, savaging a pair of opponents then leaping back into empty ground to pounce again. Now. Apparently Naruto heard him, as a Rasengan screamed in from the 2 clones left up on the ridge, flew over their heads and annihilated part of the shrine wall nearest them. This revealed a corridor that would allow them to bypass the melee at the main doors. Here's the seal containing the body of Morio. It still seems to be closed, thank goodness. Shin sighed in relief, and her armsman patted her back. We're almost done, my lady. Okay. Everyone stand back. I am going to perform the shrine sealing ritual. Sakura frowned. Why? 2. Seal Morio's body. Shin replied uncertainly. Why bother? He's sealed away all right. My understanding is that this version of the ritual is permanent, and will prevent Morio from gaining his body back in any way. Well, if you say so. Sakura muttered to herself. As Shin began, an enormous explosion sounded from outside and Naruto came flying in, hitting a pillar. That hurt. Take this His voice dropped in disappointment. Problem, Naruto? Sasuke asked idly. Stupid kill-stealing clones. Now, I'm alright. Most of the stone golems are destroyed and the rest are lacking most of their limbs. Good. Good. Came a voice. The teen's head snapped around to Kura's misty sheath beginning to swell more violently as the boys built up their signature techniques. Oh, no need to that. Yomi advanced from one of the smaller holes blown into the shrine. Everything has worked out as I- he dove to one side as a wind Rasengan attempted to occupy his torso, then jumped straight into the barrier around Shin's ceiling just before Sasuke managed to electrocute him. The voice of Morio continued as its host body fell apart. The purpose of all this was to hijack the ritual. You see, the true purpose of the shrine sealing ritual is both to unlock my true body and to merge the participants who cannot leave the shrine until this is complete. Which one comes out dominant is determined by the strength of their chakra, and that's exactly how I came about in the first place. Your dear mother made me what I am when she performed this ritual. Sakura cricked her neck. Yeah, I'm going to say right now, that's a lie. The last bit, anyway, if you'd been created in the shrine sealing ritual, you wouldn't have had a chance to do anything last time. Good point. Sasuke nodded. So, this means we wait for him to take corporeal form, then Shin drops the barrier and we blow him to bits thoroughly enough that his chakra is the weaker one. Sasuke split off a shadow clone, who went to suggest something to Naruto. The blonde nodded enthusiastically and made a horde of shadow clones of his own, before sending them all rushing off outside. The roof blew in as the 2 save mode clones outside expended the last of their save chakra by blasting the top off the shrine. Was that a good idea? Sakura asked, keeping one eye on Morio as he impatiently waited for the seal on his body to release. Sasuke spun the rage in. Yes. It's set up. Alright, Jen. Naruto'll be able to explode bits off him with insert a ranked technique minus. I resent that. Naruto called. I'm using Rasengan. Outside, massive gouts of wind-boosted flame began shooting skywards. S rank then. And I'll just see what happens if I ram a Yukai suppressor onto his face. She flicked through her set of tags. Ooh, I forgot about this. Gold chakra explosive tag. Wait, what? Morio shouted, having overheard her. How is there someone with gold chakra here? I made sure the only one died. 2 points. Sakura gave a cocky grin. First, You missed the people with recessive bloodlines. Second, who just more or less admitted to me, and to everyone else in the shrine, that Shin's mother had gold chakra like me. And, since it's hereditary, like Shin herself. Thunder rumbled outside as a huge storm developed. How do you know all this? This law was forgotten. I has seen and understood all things. Sakura whispered to herself. The seal unlocked, and Morio shot into his body as fast as he could. The great dark mass of evil arose from the pit in which it had been contained, malevolence oozing from it. A quick puff of smoke, and Shin was replaced by a Naruto clone. Go ahead, Sasuke. Sasuke raised the Raijin. Kirin. A great beast screamed, and lightning connected heaven and earth. Naruto was the first to look back at the glowing crater at the center of the shrine. Guys, did we get him? Morio howled, reforming rapidly, but sizzling where his dark form touched the semi-molten stone. Guess not. My turn. 50 shadow clones formed with a thought, and the screeches of many Raisenshuriken filled the air. Oh, come on. He's still coming back. Naruto asked incredulously. Sasuke hit him with a 3-foot lightning bolt, and then I applied something that could give Millie a hard time. My turn now. Sakura lobbed a kunai into the by now rather deep crater. A flash came out, then a horrible scream. She turned to the others and looked smug. Yeah. Naruto muttered. You have the gold chakra to a level usable in jutsu and seals, do you? Sakura threw a V sign, then frowned. So it wasn't the tag I was picking up. Shin, mind letting me has a look at that bell? Shin shot a glance at the thrashing form of Morio, and walked over. Interesting. This seems to have some kind of switch function. Currently it's sealing away your gold chakra. But the bad thing about it is that it doesn't allow for a mixed state like mine, either you're pure blue or pure gold, though it does let you use the other type via the bell. Sakura straightened. Okay, I know how to do this. First, if you switched you could destroy both Morio and yourself. Second, there's no need for it. Get over to Naruto and give him some of your chakra via the bell, okay? Naruto, go into save mode and build a Raisenshuriken with the contributed gold chakra. Gold and black in their pure forms tend to negate one another, and that'll make this Raisenshuriken actually has some bite against him. Do that, and the merger effect will end with Shin in charge. Naruto bashed his fists together, already in save mode. Right. Let's do this, Shin. Can you control chakra that's not your own? Naruto grinned. Most of my combat style revolves around it, whether it's from a clone, nature or the... He tailed off. Never mind the last one. So, here we go. Stay down as it forms. Morio finished regenerating yet again. Okay, that was extremely annoying. Where are my 4 ninja? They could be really useful at a time like this. Once more, the screech of a Raisenshuriken approached. This again. It didn't work last T-. Sakura had underestimated the effects. The gold chakra in the Raisenshuriken reacted with the black chakra of Morio's form like explosives. When the 3 Konoha nin picked themselves up again from the increasingly unrecognizable ruins of the shrine, they saw 2 things. Shin, glowing a faint gold as she absorbed the power of Morio safely, and a hole so deep, it looked like larger was coming out. Well, not much point trying to fulfill the plan. Shizuki muttered, staring at the volcano that had replaced the site of their benefactor's body. You think? Setsuna asked. Right. Let's just go find some village that's willing to take us in. I hear Kiri still has shortage problems with skilled personnel. Or we could go join Otto. Given our extensive criminal records, Otto sounds better. Kakashi frowned. Run that by me again. Sasuke called down lightning. I call it the Kirin. The strength of the thunderstorm determines its strength, and it costs essentially no chakra. Definitely a good finishing move. I see. And it worked to at least temporarily damage Morio. Good to know. Now what about that seal of yours? I decided it would be easier to just blow Morio up repeatedly so that Shin could absorb his chakra. It's helped in one way. Her chakra reserves are now respectable enough that she could probably undo the bell seal in another couple of years, and from there it's not far to ascending. It is my judgment that her descent stems from Noazume, bringer of dawn. Interesting. Well, I'll let the Hokage know what happened sometime this month. Naruto shook his head. You has no concept of the chain of command anymore, do you? Only where it pertains to my subordinates, which you three still are. He looked contrite for a moment. Just. Naruto. Trouble. Naruto looked up from where he was monitoring 1,000 or so clones trying to create a tornado. What is it, Sasuke? Sakura flickered into the area. Apparently Konoha had some trouble before we got back with Ninja on flying machines. Well, they're on the way again, and the mission team Kira and I were on seems to be mixed up in it. Gotcha. Kind of. What mission were they on? Escort. Some girl called Amaru showed up too, helped Tsunade heal everyone, and we offered her an escort back home. But there were complications. She was shadowed by Sky Ninja, and they destroyed her village while she was away. Naruto suddenly looked northeast, cutting Sakura's explanation off. Never mid, I think I know most of the rest. She was shunned growing up. She had a demonic beast inside her, and despair set it off. Sakura looked startled. Yes. That's what the report said they'd managed to infer. How? Millie's awake. Big blast of Yukai from the northeast, and it's not one she's familiar with. Sasuke picked up on the terms. Yukai specifically. Yep. And she should recognize any Yukai on the planet. But it's also got some of the properties of that black chakra Morio had. So that's how you were able to tell the rest. Yep, again. Vincharikai territory. All right. Sasuke, get us some height. I don't want to has to fight whatever's coming inside Konoha itself. Sasuke nodded, slashing at his thumb in a practiced motion. Intel. I'll check with the old guy once we're airborne. Yukai. You're sure? Mandias closed his eyes and sniffed. Yes. There's something in the air. You say Millie doesn't recognize it? No, not at all. Which really worries me. Naruto adjusted his grip on the elderly save slightly as the hawk banked. Yukai's fragments of the 10 tails, right? Could this just be a tiny little bit? Possibly. We never did work out what happened to the consciousness, though none of the 9 has anything that can be traced back to it. The 10 tails was pure malevolent evil, and we're lucky it moved slowly enough life could survive where it wasn't. Naruto shrugged. Couldn't it has just vanished? We could be that lucky. But I've learned not to bet on things like that. Especially around Millie. Fair point. Everyone was silent for the next few minutes as they headed towards the direction Naruto had pointed. One of the hawks broke the silence first. What is something that big doing in the sky? Sasuke glanced down. I don't quite see it yet. His Sharingan flashed on for a moment. Wait, there's a dot. But I can't get anything more from it. It is some kind of fortress or city. It is huge. More than that, Mandias said, suddenly tense. The area of Yukai ahead has greatly expanded. I think the flying object is being powered solely by whatever is giving it off. Millie snarled inside her host. Something about it not being an ethical power source, and an old enemy called Mr. W. Wow, she's really keyed up at the moment. Then the hawks broke formation, diving to the sides as a number of one-man flying machines bore in on them. Sasuke's eyes flicked on. That gear of theirs drains their chakra to run it. Neat. Sakura narrowed her eyes for a moment, flickered into empty air, and then replaced with one of the pilots. Naruto. Dismiss Mandias for a bit. I've got you a better ride. I like how you think, Sakura. Naruto replied, the fox save vanishing from his lap as he got ready to switch with her. You want me to go ahead and summon you in? Yeah. Then a thought occurred to her. Just be careful how much you pump in, alright. Don't blow this up. Naruto winced. Good point. Okay, 2, 1 go. A horizontal comet flew straight into the forward superstructure of Anko and exploded. Naruto tumbled from the wreckage, coughing. Damn it, still too much. He steadied himself, landed in a crouch, and bit his thumb. Summoning. Transport. As his foxes then his teammates appeared in puffs of smoke, Naruto connected himself with the natural world and entered save mode. Summoning. Again. Mandias shook his head. You and your silly comments. He closed his eyes and entered save mode himself. Yes. There's definitely something very powerful here. There's also. He paused. They're familiar. The boy with the half-dog bloodline, the boy with the hive and the Hyuga girl. Sakura blinked. You remember Hinata's family name, but not the others. She's got a dofutsu, those are important. Mandias indicated one of the large buildings making up the flying fortress. In there, I think she's fighting someone. Hinata spun away from a shockwave of darkness, executing a nearly instantaneous Kaiten to deflect the attack, and body flickered behind Shino to attack. He created a shield out of shadow arms like the leech, stopping her from targeting his tenketsu, and she danced back out of close range to refocus. Things weren't good. Kiba and Shino had been caught with a darkness wave earlier and were incapacitated. Poor Amai was still recovering from having the beast forcibly ripped out of her, and her own Juyukan attacks were being easily blocked. Always blocked, though. Never dodged. Idea. She darted back in, chakra building in her hands, and a palm strike flashed out. As normal, he created the shadow arms of the leech and blocked her. So she took one of those arms, anchored herself to the floor, and used those points of contact to swing in a lion fist charge to about her maximum safe level. That sent Shino into the wall, and nearly herself as well. Only her quick reflexes allowed her to let go of the arm before it pulled her along with her enemy. Kiba coughed. Took you long enough. She looked at him blandly. My normal approach is useless here. Though his chakra is sufficiently out of control that I think sealing up his tenketsu might make him explode. Shino looked her opponent over, swaying slightly. How is it that he is able to react to your attacks? I think it's some kind of mental reading effect. When I was indecisive about my response a moment ago, he didn't guard anywhere until I made a decision, and then he was limited to the least dangerous choice. Amal's voice came from the corner. The Zero Tails. It can do that, yes. It's like it has a mind that stretches out of its container, like there should be an intelligence big enough for it. Hinata and her team turned to her. I've had it happen a few times before. I can sometimes tell when people are unhappy when they're upset. And only now do you know what was really going on. Hinata said, understanding. A roar made them look around. I will kill all of you for that. Shino bellowed, as he tore the wall apart with his shadow hands. Hinata simply smiled. 3, 2, 1. The roof came imploding inwards, with a shape of red and orange falling through it. Hey, bastard. Naruto arrived, claws first and 6 solid tails lashing. Let's fight. One of the great stone faces of Anko collapsed, Shino's flying form going straight through the cheeks. Naruto leapt after him, wincing as his second stage form shuddered a little with instability. Damn it, Millie, what's gotten into you? Don't. No. It's just making me angry, just like I was when Madara controlled me. Are you smashing up my mindscape? My Abe. Jump in the damn ocean. It's much harder to break, and don't take that as a challenge. Or WW. That, and it's the representation of the influences of my parents on you, both of whom are related to water. Naruto returned to the battle, and just barely stopped a sort of dark orb of the black chakra held in his opponent's hand. Hey. Copyright issues. 3 of his tails pushed him up as he sprang backwards away from the deranged doctor. This is how you do it. Millie. You mean it. Time to blow something up without consequences. This once. Yes. Naruto surrendered control to Millie, who took some of his offered chakra and mixed it with her own. You know, I'd never have the concentration to do this were it not for the way Ozzy tricked me. He didn't tell me how long it would take to learn how to blow things up with my mind. As she finished, the bivou ball formed in her mouth. Now how do I fire it again? Ooh, shiny. With that she lost concentration. Good thing the bivou ball was forgiving as attacks went. An enormous directed explosion of chakra shot out of their mouth at Shino, who moved his shadow arms in the way but wasn't able quite to properly block it. Naruto reassumed control as he landed on all fours, and noticed a flicker of movement over in the scorched crater, that looked like it went most of the way through what was left of Anko. Hinata blurred to a stop, a satisfied expression on her face. I thought so. The amount of chakra in the air was sufficient to overload his senses. With another little chakra flare, she vanished back to the room the rest were in just as Shino's system overloaded. Naruto watched as the Zero Tails burst out of his body. Ouch. Now that's why you need to watch out to how old you are when you put insanely potent chakra sources inside your body. For starters, if you're old enough to do it yourself, you are too old. The leech began to advance on Naruto, building up an unusually large amount of chakra by drawing from Anko instead of the other way around, but was interrupted by a blizzard of Kidari Senbon and a B-ranked water technique to the face. Naruto. Mandias called, running into the room on the heels of the two special Jonin. I've worked out what it is. It's the 10 tails brain. What? Naruto replied, keeping one eye on his tails as they fended off the leech's arms. You mean this is the thing's mind? No, only its brain. A huge fragment of thinking chakra with nothing to fill it, so it seeks out the emotions of others. I think it was transferring some of the old instincts of the 10 tails to Millie, though luckily her own personality is stronger. Great. Naruto began to slide across the floor as the Zero Tails started to reel his transformed body towards it. Anything I can do about it? Oh. I see. There should be some kind of control mechanism somewhere on the fortress. Destroy it and it'll be unable to maintain what sanity it has. With a quick bite, Naruto removed one of its chakra arms and spat it out. Disgusting. Why do you want to send it insane? Sasuke had already left to go find Hinata. Sakura shrugged. If it can't think, it can't plan properly. With that, she followed him. I have to admit, it's the best plan so far. Damn it, stop trying to remove those. Naruto briefly reabsorbed the tail to get the dozen or so hands clinging to it to let go, then remanifested it and bundled them up with it. I'd love to actually let loose on it, but like this my choices are basically physical combat or 100-foot crater, and it's moving too damn much to aim. At least Shino was kind of slow. He glanced over at his summons. And you're not helping. Aya shrugged. Big fights are cool. Nii looked across at her fellow summon for approval, and took some of the food he'd taken out of nowhere. Mandias looked disapprovingly at the bucket of popcorn. Be that as it may, Naruto, there is no need to worry. You're drawing on so much power compared to it that the Zero Tails can't possibly do any permanent damage to you. That doesn't make it hurt less. Naruto's voice cut off in a yelp as one of his tails gore pulled especially hard. I knew there was a downside to transforming like this. At least your skin hasn't exploded. That was a possibility for this few tails. Now you tell me. Abruptly, the Zero Tails' arms all went completely stiff, flinging Naruto towards a wall, which collapsed when he hit it, adding to the general rubble, and it screamed. Finally. Naruto said, shaking his head to clear it, then inhaled massively. I hope this works. His tails came up around his muzzle and he exhaled a great blast of chakra-laced wind. The 6 tails caught the stream of air and added rotation to it. Spiral wind cannon. The original attack that he'd learned off the Forbidden Scroll all those years ago hadn't been very clear on how it was to be executed, and every other time he tried it hadn't worked. The main problem was just that he couldn't work out how to add the rotation before it left his mouth without destroying said mouth, and afterwards it was usually too late. By the relatively low stability of the vortex that he produced now, actually, it wouldn't have worked with fewer than 6 tails to get it rotating. But it was enough to tear a hole right through the body of the Zero Tails, and it began thrashing about wildly in what were clearly death throes. The entire structure shuddered as something important broke with a sizzle. Anko began to list. Naruto raised what was technically a paw. Abandon ship. Aye. The 3 foxes replied in unison, and vanished in puffs of smoke. The Vincharakai loped to the side and leapt off. Well, they say cats land on their feet. That's true for foxes too. Right. Wham. Ow. Naruto rolled upright, shook himself, and released Millie's chakra with a wince at the feeling of his chakra paths contracting. He shrank back from the 15-foot or so fox form he'd been in to his normal human shape. Man, I didn't pay Freya enough for the seals on these things. He grinned, checking that his clothes were all still there. Right, where are the others? This is all quite worrying. Mandias agreed, seated on his haunches. If the brain of the 10 tails survived separate to the other pieces, then it's possible that the intelligence did so as well. Does that mean something bad to it now that we killed the leech? Naruto asked. To be honest, I has no idea. It might interfere with any plan to put the 10 tails back together again, or it might make it easier. We can't tell. Lani had looked unsettled for the last few minutes. Mandias, I has a problem. I think some of my records may be inaccurate. I was looking into them to see what we had on Madara. Sasuke's eyes narrowed for a moment at the name. Who was our first summoner? Mandias closed his eyes, casting back through his long memory. I think it was one Mari. The girl whose nickname was the Beast. Second. His voice was more confident now. Shochi. Third. The old save listed off the names one by one, Lani checking them off against her small archival scroll and looking increasingly worried. And 10th. Naruto here. And you're certain you didn't miss one? She pressed. I was here when the summon scroll was first made, and I has guided every one of the companions of the fox. I remember them all well. Right. She unrolled the big scroll. Because there are 11 spaces filled. How very strange. Mandias looked disturbed. I didn't know anything at all could interfere with the connection inherent in the scroll. Hold on a moment. He closed his eyes again and slipped into save mode, running back through his memory like the pages of a book. The first two signs did so at the left end of the scroll. Nothing wrong with the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Hey, she never could form the characters right. Seventh, eighth, ninth. His eyes snapped open. It's Naruto's signature. That's the only one out of place. Madara's signature was in the 9th slot, and now it's in the 10th as well. But he only signed once. Someone has snuck their name onto the scroll, and it's Madara Uchiha, which is impossible, because if he's in the 9th slot, then he's dead. Sasuke blinked, shocked. Sakura frowned. Is it possible to fake a signature on the scroll? No, it has to be a name that's yours somehow. A birth name, a given name, a true name. But not a false name. Then. Sakura's mind flickered with concepts. Is it possible to change your name somehow? For the purposes of this. I mean, could someone change their name to Madara Uchiha, sign the scroll, or get their name on the scroll by that connection otherwise and change it back? That's disturbingly possible. It would be incredibly hard to change any of the names in question, since they're fundamental parts of the person, but if our Uchiha massacring hypothetical villain did manage that, then they would be able to add themselves to the scroll like renewing a contract, reinforcing it. It wouldn't even need them to be in the same plane as the scroll. But who would do such a thing? And if this is the person we've all spent the last decade and a half calling Madara, then why pretend to be him? Sasuke slowly raised a hand. Just so I can be sure this hypothetical villain did do all the things that I hated about who we thought was Madara, right? Yes. Then it appears that I still hate the same person, just under a different name. What's the fake name they're using? I think Itachi's letter to you, said Tobi. Sakura turned chalk white. Kun numbers. Pardon? Sasuke asked. Sakura turned to him and began counting. Hitobi, Futobi, Mibi, Yobi, Itsubi, Nubai, Nanabi. Everyone's minds raced ahead of her. Yobi. Kokonobi. Oh, crap. Naruto breathed. Tobi. There was silence for a minute. This explains much. Mandias said softly. Thoroughly shaken, the three swore among themselves to never mention that in the elemental countries and returned to Konoha after deciding that, if they ever met Tobi on their missions, they would just run. If he was Deidara's teammate, as Itachi's letter had suggested, it wasn't exactly as if they'd want to stay near the duo even under normal circumstances. Hey, guys. Sasuke and Naruto froze, before carefully retracting their knife hand strike and sweep kick respectively. Sakura. It's time. One of the teams in the area had a Yamanaka, and they reported to Inoichi. The Three Tails has finished reforming. Well, here we are. Sakura glanced over at the Scratch Force. In addition to her own full team, Shizune, Tenten and Ino had been brought along for the sealing. Lee Kiba and Shino completed the ranks. Unfortunately, Hinata and Nevi had both been occupied elsewhere on clan business, and there hadn't been the time to make up their teams. Their mission was simple: seal the Three Tails in a storage scroll. Apparently Freya had some kind of special seal design that could take 3 tails of power. Sakura had looked it over and pronounced it possible. The problem was watching out for anyone else in the area. That was what most of the ninja were along for. Shizune gestured to the 3 other sealers. Come on, we need to set up the search mode. The other 3 kunoichi moved to the corners of a square, and raised their arms with Shizune. On a signal they all cut their thumbs, activated their copies of the seal technique and fed them chakra. The complex seal array instantly blossomed into the sky, thickening and solidifying so that when they cut the feeds it stayed there before floating off to begin watering the vast lake. Naruto watched it drift over the water. That's really impressive. That's something like that could seal an active, uncontained tailed beast. I mean, most of the time they has to be fought to a standstill. Yeah, hey. About that. Sakura said nervously. Naruto didn't even turn around. I have to fight it. Don't I? Pretty much. Most of the power is in the containment array. There wasn't much left to the capture array. Just hit it until the barrier can solidify properly, then we'll get a fox to summon you out. His eyes closed, and he drew in nature's power. Okay. Ready now. And just in time, too. Sakura blinked. How can you tell? A tailed beast. Any sensor worth their salt could sense that once they were within their range, and being connected to nature gives me a lot more than normal. Sakura cursed inventively. I can't believe I forgot that. Of all the times too, has that Hyuga clan meeting. We could have sorted this out much more easily. Not every day that their clan heads, second child heads off to a tune-in exam. Oh well, we're here now. Naruto formed a small squad of clones and began spinning up a raisin shuriken. 3, 2, 1. He hurled it. Less than a second later, the 3 tails emerged with a roar from the water and got a raisin shuriken to the face. Sasori. The Finchorikai asked absently. Not much damage, that shell must be one of the toughest things in existence. Get some good storm clouds going and I'll be able to blast it when you want. Sounds good to me. Guys. 2 of you charge up and help boost Sasuke's fire, other 2 come with me. The 3 save mode Naruto charged off in unison, all 3 of them working the seals for drilling fang bullets. Shizune watched the explosions start. Wow. I never really grasped the kind of thing Team 7 deals with before. Kiba chuckled. What are we, chopped liver? Akamao barked something. Kiba turned pale. What? No, you can't take a taste to check. He has a point. Shino stated in a monotone. Our last major mission involved a demonic entity on the same order as a tailed beast. Although our utility was limited. Hey, yeah. That mission was confusing. Why? Tenten asked, unsealing the Garian sword and spinning it around her palm for a moment. Our enemy was called Shino. But are you not called Shino, my youthful urbane comrade? Lee asked, confused. Exactly my point. Oh. I see. Guys. Ino asked, looking up. Was there a massive thunderstorm here a minute ago? A 2-foot bolt of lightning hit the water, and blew a crater in it, then a pair of raisin shuriken hit the 3 tails in rapid succession. Naruto dispelled the last of his charging clones. Damn, not long left. Sakura. I've got 2 options here. What are they? She called back. Get eaten or go fuzzy. Sakura shook her head for a moment. Naruto considered being eaten a viable option. Second one. Okay. He dumped his save chakra in a single massive pressure damage, then drew out 7 tails of chakra. That was the point his second stage actually started getting really big. The 3 tails sensed the presence of another like it, and obeyed the relatively primitive animal instincts it had reverted to on reincorporation. Rival. Fight. Kill. Everyone watched in awe as the 2 titans battled Naruto's fox paws glowing with red-orange yukai as he applied the water-walking exercise on a grand scale. Does somebody has a can opener the size of the Hokage monument? A few people sighed with relief, not quite believing before that this really was Naruto in control. Yape. Why do tailed beast things always go for the tails? A massive tidal wave splashed up from the impact as Naruto shook the 3 tails off. I suggest we run. Shino calmly stated. Okay, Yukimura, you need to take those pills in order to increase your natural link to the 3 tails. Really? The boy asked. What for? So you can call it to the surface, of course. But it's right over there. He pointed, and the sound Nin followed his finger. The gigantic turtle appeared for a moment flying through the air in an eruption of water, before a huge lightning bolt shot down from the still present clouds, and slammed it back into the lake. Nururi gaped. How did we miss that? Who knows? Rinji muttered. I don't. Asked Gozu, sounding uncertain. Who cares how? Let's get over there. Guren shouted and took off over the water with her team in pursuit. That's me out. Sasuke stated, gazing the disappearing clouds. That last one exhausted the storm cell, no more Kirin today. Sakura winced at the impact from the turtle hitting the fox in the chest with its tails. To be honest, I think Naruto might do better if we were standing a bit further off. Sai gave his normal creepy smile. Exposing people to the fear of inflicting collateral damage is a major problem among high-level ninja battles. I knew it. Sakura said. Fight temporarily forgotten. I knew all of those bland sayings of yours were from a book. I was reading that one last night. Clearly you are not very far into Danzo's big book of ninja. That's in the first chapter. His smile changed slightly. Though I think the third chapter is more appropriate here. There's a quote that says, if most of the force is on the sidelines 9 times out of 10 the battle gets bigger. Attack. The team spun seeing Guren's squad approaching. Oh, look. Orochimaru's experiments. Sakura cracked her knuckles. Earth, fire, water and 3 unknowns. One of them has a kek. Toru. 3 elements. Yes. The leader. The woman with the green coat. There's earth in there, but I can't quite tell the other 2 elements. Possibly it's like ice with earth added. You want to take her, or should I? You do it. The earth and water outweigh the wind. Her element is vulnerable to electricity if it follows normal rules. Sai drew his sword in one hand and his brush in the other. Sakura. I will engage the one with the grenade launcher. Got it. I'll deal with the gas mask guy. A swirling mist of water built around her. Hey. Kiba shouted. What are you guys looking at? Sound ninja. Sakura called back, and advanced wrapped in thin streamers of high-speed water. Now she tells us. Kiba tossed his head. Come on, guys. Flawless crystal met chirping blade, and gave way to it. Guren scowled, discarding her lance. Damn you. What is that? It's called the lightning element. It is weak to wind, and strong against earth. Water enhances it. I didn't mean that. Oh. The sword. Not telling. Sasuke spun away from her next attack, a salvo of crystal shuriken and flickered behind her. Crystal imprisonment wave. That Sasuke dissolved into nothing as the attack hit it. One-handed hand seals. I see. Electric aura armor. A curtain of electricity sprung up over the body of the original who hadn't moved. Am I right in thinking that since electricity disrupts the structure of your element, then your indirect attack entrapment techniques don't work now? Guren frowned for a moment. God's crossings. A series of clear crystal obelisks erupted from the ground in a line marching towards Sasuke. When the final one was about to appear directly under him, he gave a little smirk. Nothing appeared. Thought not. Why didn't you even duff? Don't underestimate me. Sharingan. Guren flipped through a series of hand seals again. Jade Crystal Wall 8 formation. Lightning element. Jade Crystal Prison. Lightning again. Guren almost snarled. Pulling up a massive amount of her remaining chakra, she slammed her hands on the ground. Jade Crystal Labyrinths. An enormous gemstone-shaped prison formed around Sasuke, coming together from a number of flowers in seconds. Sasuke experimentally pushed the Raijin into the wall and it sizzled, but only broke up a small area. On removal, the area healed up again. Interesting. The large structure disperses the electricity. Guren's voice echoed through the maze. Give up. You can't keep up that lightning armor forever, and your Sharingan is no help here. There's too much to see. Not too little. I'm not just my eyes. Sasuke's free hand began to chirp, and the Raijin's edge lengthened. An important principle is that you can't just maintain something with no cost. And I imagine that this enormous cave of yours takes up a lot of chakra to maintain even without having to repair it. So, How much chakra do you have? Sasuke barraged the walls with Kidari Senbon, then stabbed the enlarged Raijin into one of them. And in a labyrinth, the way out is just to keep your hand on one wall. Sakura frowned, as she ran into a dense smokescreen. The fire user was clearly more skilled in indirect arts than most fire nature wielders. Seriously, how many ways did you need to set something on fire? But her water nature made her a hard opponent for any fire user, and true sight made a smokescreen worse than useless. She coughed. Well, if you remembered to cover your mouth, anyway. A quick improvised water technique and the soot left her lungs, and moving her water-soaked forehead protector bund across her mouth dealt with any more on the way. Who are you? A voice ghosted out of the mist. Sakura ignored the direction it was coming from, closing instead on the real Kigri. Nobody develops water techniques for that specific a situation. Smoke clones loomed out of the mist, and his voice continued. It does not matter. You cannot fight an enemy who is like smoke. The swirling aura of mist around Sakura abruptly sharpened, becoming thin razor blades that spun in an intricate pattern. Cutting water dance. Hey, you see, that doesn't work. The smoke clones just reform and hang on. Shouldn't the technique has ended by now? Binding smoke prison. Sakura blinked, shifting her other element from fire to wind. Dispersion of water. The watery streamers slowed, joined into a continuous bubble, then blasted outwards in all directions. Kigri staggered back, startled, as it began to rain black water. That picked up all my smoke particles. I know. That's why I did it. Exploding flame shot. Kigri rubbed his hands together for a moment, then produced a shower of fireballs and shot them at Sakura. Take this. No thank you. Analyzing the chakra release, Sakura determined what he was doing to create the fireballs like that. Neat. I have to say, water rose up in front of her to block the fireballs. You've got a much more diverse selection of fire attacks than most people I run into. Here's one of mine. I thought you were a water type. He shouted. That and wind. How are you going to minus? Sakura blinked. And the water shield fell away. The next fire shot hit her and splashed off her thanks to her fire aspect's fire resistance. Dance of the firestorm. Just like the water had earlier, the fire and wind wrapped around her body, screaming with speed and power. Then she vanished. Kigri took a moment to work out where she'd flickered to, and that was too long. Her snap kick took him in the right kneecap, and the hungry flames took him. That was less than pleasant. She shuddered, switching back to water and washing off. Then she staggered. Wow, that took more out of me than I thought. Suppose it must have been overwhelming. His chakra in the smoke. Dark smoke sphere. Sai batted away the grenade that was headed closest to him, and unfurled his scroll. I see you use smoke attacks. Is there a reason for that? Ho. Now, tell me about your mother. Sai put brush to scroll. I've been trying to work out how Naruto does his friendship attacks, but all the psychology books seem to go on about something that hardly seems related. Kyo shook his head in confusion. I don't know what you're trying to talk about. Clearly. Was that an insult? Yes. Sai continued painting. I don't have to take that from you. Smoke dragon. Smoking does not make you look cool, and I shudder to think where the dragon bit comes from. Sai flourished his scroll, producing an ink griffin from it, and nodded appreciatively as it swallowed the smoke dragon whole. My attacks are water-natured. Water makes it so that smoke is washed out of the air. You are out of moves already. That is sad. Sai gestured forward. Get him. Wait. No. Please. You shot me with a grenade launcher. Sai shrugged. I has no sympathies. Tenten shook her head sadly. Bats. Really? You sure you want to do this? Rinji shrugged. My bats are useful. Oh. I'm sure they're a good utility power, it's just that. They're regular bats. Not even large. Really? Well, can't you hear something? Just on the edge of hearing, this ringing sound. Makes you feel woozy, makes you feel minus. Kiba and Akamai kicked him in the head. Shut up. That sounds like a dog whistle going wrong. Tenten blinked, then shrugged. Works for me. Shall I finish him off? Go ahead. She unfurled a scroll. Everything including the kitchen sink attack A number of large appliances flew out of the scroll and pummeled Rinji, ending with a metal sink and pipes. Kiba frowned. Not that I'm complaining or anything, but... Why? Comedy value. I filled it last month when we had to demolish a house. I see you are a most supple and youthful opponent. Lee launched a series of kicks, and Nururi flowed out of the way of them effortlessly. Marvelous. I can see that this is a true test of my youthful skills. Do you always say that? But of course. Youthfulness must be proclaimed constantly. Lee finally managed to land a hit, though Nururi deformed with the blow to avoid being damaged and found that his hands were covered with a strange, slimy substance. I see you discovered my slime suit. It will stop you from moving, resisting your attempts to move even as I rob them of their force. Nururi giggled. A light gleamed in Lee's eyes. A challenge. Sixth gate of joy. Wait, what? Morning peacock. Nururi discovered to his dismay that his slime suit was not in fact immune to evaporating. Gozu slammed his fists together. Puny little Konoha ninja. I will break you. Ino glanced over at Shino. Is he on steroids or something? I do not know. Shino formed a hand seal, and a number of bugs swarmed out. Can you target him with a mind-body switch? It would be helpful. He'd need to be fairly still first. Dad taught me the faster version, but it still takes a second or so. Then I will hold him still, so you can do that. His bugs coalesced into a pair of clones. Iron Mountain leaning. Ino watched his attack. How does that even deserve a name? It's a tackle. Shino strained, trying to hold the larger ninja as his muscles swelled alarmingly. Now, please. Oh. Sorry. Mind/body transfer. Gozu struggled for another second or two, then stopped and grinned. Done. Very well. Shino released the possessed ninja. Please hold still. A few orange-red ants crawled out of his clothes. These are the single most venomous insects that do not naturally enhance their venom with chakra. I has enhanced them with chakra. They will sting the body of this ninja so that he will die, then you will leave his body. Got it. Ouch. Ow. Ow. Those things hurt. Usually that is the primary purpose of an insect sting in any case. The venom will take effect shortly. End your technique. Ino's body jerked back to life. In the intervening time, it had fallen over and begun floating in the lake. Damn, that was rough. Gozu seized up and keeled over. Sasuke came to a blind wall. If I has this layout correct, this is going to be the center through here. Go away. Leave me alone, I'm tired. Duran mumbled, almost out of chakra. The Raijin carved through the wall. Surrender and you'll get to live, though you're not going to be using any jutsu anytime soon. Why are you sparing me? Because you're the leader of this team, and you presumably know a lot about Orochimaru's plans. Sasuke swung his legendary sword, and Duran let out a short cry as it sliced off the two last fingers on each hand. That should stop you from performing any hand seals. He picked up the fingers and sealed them into a spare scroll. If you cooperate, you may get them back. The crystal labyrinth dissolved. Sasuke looked over to the main fight. Naruto. How much more? Naruto had pulled out an additional tail at some point and had the three tails in a chokehold. I think it's weakening. His eyes flickered up. But I broke the containment seal. Probably when I had to use a bamboo ball against this guy. The turtle thrashed one final time and stopped moving. Shizune called to the sealing team and got them to rally to her. Quick! Before it recovers. Finally. Sakura sighed, leaning on Sasuke for support. The technique had taken hold, and the three tails was trapped inside the barrier. Naruto slumped down next to them. Tell me about it. I'm just about wiped out after that. Channeling that much chakra for that long burns. Everyone else isn't in much better shape either. Shizune said. Tenten and Kiba are in the best shape than Sai, Shino and Ino, but everyone else has hardly any chakra left and Lee's muscles are badly overstrained. Sasuke glanced at the hilt of his sword. Were it not to that, I'd has run out of chakra there. Still we won. Naruto said. And that means minus. A flicker of motion slammed into his side and exploded. Sasuke's hand grabbed the Raijin so fast it looked like he'd flickered it into his hand. Akatsuki attack. A second explosive came in and he sliced it in half before it detonated. Naruto. Shizune ran over to him. It didn't look good. The explosive had been a small one, but it had blown his arm off at the elbow, and he seemed to be going into shock. We've got to get out of here. Sakura said quietly. They're after the three tails, and we can't contest it. Not with only Sasuke still in fighting shape. I hate to do it. But you're right. Shizune said. That all this was worthless, though. It wasn't worthless. We stopped Orochimaru from getting it. True. Everyone. Retreat to the rally point. Tobi waved at the retreating Konoha ninja. Goodbye. Come again soon. Tobi, you really annoy me. Do I, senpai? Tobi asked innocently. Is that a good thing? Shut up. Deidara took a scroll out of his jacket. Time to blow this barrier wide open, yeah. Ooh. Is that one of the big fireworks? Yes, Tobi. It's a firework. I see. Tobi shook his head sadly. It's a pity that we couldn't deny Akatsuki the use of one of the bither, but we has at least managed to obtain useful information on my former students' plans. Oh, how is Naruto? Still unconscious. Did someone get the number of the bither that ran me over? Naruto muttered as he came back to woozy awareness. Then he spotted his arm. Oh. Right. Better deal with that first, then. Closing his eyes, he concentrated hard. Slowly, with a few stops and starts, he shapeshifted his arm back to normal. That took a lot out of me. Shizune came in. Naruto, you're... How did you do that? Regeneration. Now I'm starving. Regrowing an arm does that. And what the hell happened? Well, that sucks. Tell me about it. Sakura sighed. All that effort, and then Akatsuki come along and steal it. I suppose so. Though at least we got out of there before they managed to learn anything about us. Itachi coughed wetly, then looked at the blood, spattered hand he'd covered his mouth with. As expected. I will has to fight Sasuke within the month. I think I has the adaptation to my eyes chakra network completed. I hope it will affect the Amaterasu correctly. Kisum. Leave me. I has private matters to deal with. Kisum grinned. What, writing a letter to your girl again? Sure, Itachi, I'll let you have that privacy of yours. The shark man shifted his legendary sword on his shoulder. Don't know why you're so hung up about it. So what if you were a clan heir? That was 7 years ago. And it's not as if you enjoyed it anyway. At least I think that's what you were trying to say with the whole murder thing. Or was it that they just didn't like the girl? He chuckled, then left the room they were staying in a small town on the border of fire country. Itachi said nothing more. He'd carefully crafted the image of some secret paramour, but he didn't think Kisum actually believed it. Brash, or not, the man was an S-ranked missing nin. No, it just gave him the excuse he needed to look the other way whenever Itachi did his private matters. He silently gave his chakra. Good. The disease has not affected that at least. Sitting down at the ratty table provided, he began to write 2 letters. One to his brother detailing the battleground he had chosen, a fortress dating to before the founding, and how to disarm the multitude of traps leading into the Uchiha fortress. He left out one in every 10 of them, of course. No sense letting his brother grow complacent. The second was simply addressed to bearer. You has received this letter, because you are the one gave by the crows to be the best hope for them to continue. The summons under the banner of the Yatigara are exacting, precise, and demand that the individual consider themselves as part of the collective. You will find them to be loyal, so long as you can meet their high standards. You will find them to be skilled, so long as you display skill in return. Continue their legacy. Itachi of the Uchiha clan. He carefully rolled up both letters into scrolls, then his hands flickered through the hand seals of summoning at the kind of speed that explained why he was even now dying of lung cancer and with his eyes barely able to see in black and white, still worthy of the name he'd been called in Konoha. Paragon. Not a prodigy of the ninja arts. Prodigies could be skilled in ninjutsu, or the subtle art of illusions, or in seals. There were even prodigies in specific fighting styles. No, Itachi had been seen as the next god of shinobi, a man to whom all the ninja arts came as naturally as breathing. more naturally, now. And, like the last, he despised the need to gem. Such were the ironies of history. His palm hit the tabletop with no more force than was needed, and a trio of crows materialized. He handed the first letter to one. Go. It is the hawk summoner you are to seek. That one would not be stopped by Madara. With Itachi's illness advanced to this point, Madara knew that he would be contacting Sasuke for his last desire, a death by his brother's hands. And that would, as far as Madara was concerned, make Sasuke finally out in the open and manipulable. He put it out of his mind, and turned to the larger two. One of them bore a scroll in her claws, bearing the emblem of a three-footed crow. This was his summon contract. The other was older, and only a little larger, but had taken Itachi the most chakra to summon. This was the crow's boss. Meigochai. Itachi inclined his head. The term was part name, part title. The leader of the crows was always Meigochai, and their previous name never referred to again. Itachi. Why? It is time. I will not last out the year. You must find another. Indeed. The younger crow looked out the window. Itachi raised his hand, and the Meigochai laid a wing on her back. No, Sayaka. She frowned, then nodded. I see. A messenger is one thing, but this another. One of the reasons Itachi prized his summons was their keen intellect. Like him, they rarely needed many words either to say or to hear. I will summon Sayaka and yourself as part of my murder in my next skirmish. Let Madara think I was ill. And made a mistake. Hence the unusually high chakra cost. Yes. Seek out the summoner best for you. My preference would be Konoha. But I would not mind if you went elsewhere. The words did not need to be spoken. We will do as you request. Let the red bell toll once more. Once more, the Uchiha nodded. This time in memory of when it had told to him. Is he ready? Meigochai cocked his head. Close. The transplant is done. It will be 3 months before the eye has recharged. So be it, then. With that, both crows dispelled themselves. That's it to this part. If you enjoyed it, then like, share and subscribe to the next video, as it's going to be more interesting, and also check out the other playlist. Hope you would like them too.